Hello to all my dear followers. Today I'm very happy to welcome you to a new fanfic. Today we're launching the fanfic What If Naruto Fell in Love with FEM, Sasuke and Mikoto. Please show it lots of love in the form of likes, comments, and subscriptions if you want a second season. Enjoy.
Chapter 1. The Death and Birth of Uchiha. Uchiha Compound, Day of the Massacre. Sasuke. It's time for school. A mother called for her young daughter to come downstairs and go to school, the Ninja Academy of Konoha. The woman's name was Makoto Uchiha, and she was a jonin of the Hidden Leaf. As her last name suggested, she was indeed a member of the elite clan of the Uchiha, made famous by the Sharingan eye that could manifest from the blood of the clan members. The Uchiha were a powerful addition to Konoha's populace. Lately, though, Makoto has noticed that the clan had been segregated and shut out of more and more dealings that had to do with the village, and it concerned her. Then there is Itachi. He has been acting so strangely. I hope Fugaku is wrong in his assumptions, but there is no way to be sure. At that point, a small girl came running down the stairs with her school bag. Her long blue hair swayed behind her back with its long length. Her bangs went all the way down to her chin on either side of her cheeks, and her onyx eyes were full of life and happiness. Sasuke was still in a good mood over her father's actions recently. He had given her a test to see if she had matured enough to become a true Uchiha, and she had passed. She had learned the fireball technique in just 1 week, something her father had been genuinely impressed by. Her mother even told her that they always talk about how well she has been doing when they are alone. She was finally getting acknowledgement over Itachi. Hey mom, I'm going to school. I'll be home a little late since I plan on training after school. Makoto just smiled at her daughter, giving a lunch bag to Sasuke as she ran out the door, waving goodbye. Makoto lost her smile once her daughter was out of sight, a bad feeling settling in the pit of her stomach. She eyed Itachi's room from the kitchen. A suspicious glare settled on her features, and the fully matured, 3-tomoed Sharingan eyes manifested from her onyx orbs. Mother, is something wrong? Makoto's eyes widened and she canceled the Sharingan, turning to her side to face Itachi, her son. He was looking at her with what appeared to be genuine confusion, and she felt a bit embarrassed over her emotions. Even if he was a suspicious and an introverted person, he was still her son, and she smiled at Itachi. No, nothing is wrong, Itachi. I was just thinking about something a bit too much. That's all. Itachi kept his eyes on her for a second before shrugging and walking outside, heading towards the Uchiha training grounds. I'm going out to train. Goodbye, mother. Makoto eyed him as he left, her feeling of anxiety more intense than ever now that he was in the room. All right, Itachi, don't overwork yourself. And with that, the door was shut and Makoto heaved out a sigh. The day was weighing down on her nerves. Fugaku. Hurry home. Konoha. Ninja Academy. Sasuke entered the Ninja Academy, a big smile on her face today, as she wore the Uchiha crest proudly on the back of her blue shirt. It was a simple blue shirt with the Uchiha high collar, but to her, it was a source of pride in her clan and her future as a ninja. Her pants were just white shorts, reaching down to her knees, and of course her blue sandals. All the outfits she wore her mother had picked up for her. I'm going to make mother and father proud. I swear. She entered Irika-sensei's classroom just as he was beginning to teach. She gave a shy smile to him and walked to her desk, a few boys blushing a bit. Sasuke was a source of beauty and admiration for the girls and a beauty and crush to all the boys of her class, and they envied not only her beauty but smarts as well. All right, class, today, I am going to welcome a new student. He has been transferred from a different class. His name is... Irika looked down at his clipboard. Naruto Uzumaki. Sasuke was curious. She turned towards the door and saw a blonde boy enter with a bright smile, not nervous or shy at all. He had 3 whisker marks on either cheek and wore a simple black shirt with an orange spiral on it. His black shorts reached his knees and his scuffed black sandals had dirt all over them from running to get to the academy. Hey everybody, the name's Naruto Uzumaki. Nice to meet you. Irika pleasantly smiled and watched the other kids' reactions to his arrival. Most did not seem too interested, like Kiba Inuzuka or Shino Aburami. A few of the older kids were glaring at him, something that not even Irika had expected. 2 girls struck Irika as being interested, even in the slightest by the blonde arrival. Hinata Hyuga blushed at his presence and bumped her two pointer fingers together nervously. Irika smiled at how easy it was for children to have a crush. He looked at Naruto to see if he noticed. The boy apparently didn't notice at all as he just stood there at the door, smiling as big as he could. The other girl Irika had spied was none other than Suzuki Uchiha. Contrary to the other boys within her class, it appeared Naruto had something they didn't. Not to say she was blushing like the shy Hyuga, but her eyes did not seem to want to leave him. "All right, Naruto, let's find you a seat." Everyone began to scramble around, either trying to stop the Uzumaki from sitting by them or trying to make room. Irika just shook his head at their silly antics and waited for them to be done. Upon the end of the sudden musical chair game, Irika saw about what he had expected to see. The only seat available was right next to Suzuki. He chuckled a bit. The girl just glared at any boy who would try and sit with her, and they didn't want to risk her wrath. "Naruto, how about you sit next to Suzuki? I'm sure you both will get along just fine." Naruto turned to the teacher in surprise and then looked up at the girl he was supposed to sit by. She was eyeing him curiously, as if he was the prey and she the predator. Naruto gulped. He had no experience talking with a girl, so he wasn't feeling so confident. He walked up the steps, ignoring the glares he received from the boys of the class. They were nothing like the glares he received from the adults. "They are only angry at me because I'm sitting next to a cute girl. The adults hate me, plain and simple." Suzuki watched as the new boy sat down and smiled at him, a gesture not lost on the blonde. "Hello. My name is Suzuki Uchiha. I hope we get along just fine." Naruto's eyes widened in surprise before he too gained a smile. "Yeah, I hope so too." Irika waited for the boy to get settled in before he began to teach the class on a lesson on the past Hokage. "All right, class. Today we are going to learn a little history." A resounding sigh echoed around the room as Irika said history, making him realize how much they found it boring. Now, history is important. Just think, if we didn't care about history, we wouldn't have any jutsu written down from the past. Then where would the Leaf Village be? The class quieted down after that, allowing Irika to begin. Suzuki, as a bright young student, took out a piece of paper and a pencil and began to write down the names of the Hokage as Irika did on the board. She cleanly labeled each one and when they became Hokage through time periods and detailed their basic jutsu and specialties. Looking over to see what Naruto had written, she was surprised to find him with his head down and lightly snoring. It was soon apparent to the girl that Naruto wasn't exactly a hard worker. She zoned back into Irika teaching and looked back at her paper to check her writing so far. The 4 Hokage, Shodai, Hashirama Senju, reign, foundation of Konoha to First Shinobi World War. Specialties Mokutan, tailed beast control, charisma. After heavy negotiations between Madara Uchiha and Hashirama, he was able to create Konoha using his special abilities. It was the Shodai that installed the initial shinobi system and created the foundations that would later make up modern Konoha. It was also due to Hashirama that the tailed beasts were taken under control and peace was spread for a time due to his negotiations. Nidaime, Tobarama Senju, reign, First Shinobi War. Specialties Suetun, Kenjutsu, Edo Tensei, Jikuken Jutsu. Facts. During his short reign, Tobarama Senju created and solidified many important institutions within Konoha. Under his order, the ANBU Black Ops were formed, the academy was refined and rebuilt, the Chunin exams were invented, and the Konoha military police force was created as a sign of trust to Uchiha. Suzuki had underlined the police force as it made her think of her father, the leader of the organization. It was a source of pride for young Uchiha to strive to become a member, but she had noticed that the adults did not have as much enthusiasm about it. It was strange, but there wasn't much for Suzuki to find that they could hate about the organization. Sandaime, Hiruzen Sarutobi, the professor, reign, First Shinobi World War to end of Third Shinobi World War, took Hokage's seat back upon the death of Yondaime directly after Kyuubi attack. Specialties, knowledge of jutsu, summoning, leadership abilities. Facts. After being elected to Hokage by the Nidaime's last wish, Hiruzen took up the title and quickly quelled the First World War through negotiations. Maintaining what the previous Kage had done to make Konoha great, Hiruzen made smaller, subtle changes to the organization of the military. After training the 3 legendary Sannin, Sarutobi led Konoha through the Second World War and brought peace at a strong price. His reign was marred by war even with his pacifistic nature, and also it led to the betrayal of Orochimaru, his prized student. Upon the end of the Third Shinobi War, Hiruzen gave his title up to Minato Namikaze as his age grew. After the latter's unexpected death, Hiruzen again took up the title of Hokage and still holds it. Yandame, Minato Namikaze, Konoha's Yellow Flash. Reign, Third Shinobi World War aftermath to Kyuubi's attack on Konoha. Specialties: Jikuken, Hiraishin, Natural Speed, Ninjutsu Creation, Summoning. Facts: upon the end of the Third Shinobi World War, due to his growing age and Minato's great show of strength and valor during the war, Hiruzen stepped down and gave him the title. Few changes were made during his short reign, however, peace was absolute. During Kyuubi's attack, he sacrificed himself to halt the beast and saved Konoha. Alright, did everyone get that down? Irika checked on the class to find most of them still writing. His eyes caught onto Sasuke to find that she was already done. His eyes then moved to Naruto and he frowned to see him sleeping. Sasuke caught Irika's eye movements and suddenly felt bad for Naruto, even if it was his fault. With a sharp kick to his leg, Naruto was awoken and just in time for Irika to yell at him. Naruto, since you already seem to know all of this information already because you don't need notes, please, tell the class about the seat of Hokage and what it means to the village. Naruto's blue eyes widened in surprise, and he looked around to see all the kids staring at him. Grumbling something incoherent, Naruto stood up from his chair and began to speak loudly. The Uchiha girl was amazed he wasn't frightened at all by the teacher or the other students. He was fine. It was then Sasuke realized that what Naruto didn't have in smarts he had plenty in determination and confidence. It made her actually feel a little envious. What am I saying? My father respects only those with knowledge and power. I have to be like that if I want him to approve. But still, it is pretty cool that Naruto can do that so easily. The Hokage, he's the strongest ninja in the whole village. Everybody looks at him and respects him. They know what he's done and who he is. He protects us all and shows Konoha's strength to all the other villages. That's why. Naruto looked down at the floor a moment to steady himself. He tightened his fists up. I want to be the greatest Hokage. His outburst was met with silence for a few long moments. The class was surprised by his answer. Irika at first hadn't really taken the boy seriously, but he was glad to see the kid had some dreams after all. The class began to laugh out loud, save for a few who either didn't care or looked at Naruto with pity that his dreams wouldn't come true. Sasuke didn't laugh, but she was too surprised by his response to say anything. Naruto just sat back down and looked at his desk, ignoring the response he had expected from the others. Even if no one believed in him, he would find a way to become Hokage. He would make people see him and respect him. It made him sad to think that so many didn't care about his dream, but he knew that someday he would show them all who he really was and what he could do. I'll show them. I'll become the greatest Hokage, Naruto thought as he waited for Irika to calm the class and continue with the lesson. Quiet down. Irika waited for them to stop laughing before he turned to Naruto. Thank you, Naruto, your answer was right and your goal is admirable. Just try to pay a little more attention next time to the lesson and I won't have to call on you. Alright? The blonde boy just nodded a little and Irika sighed in acceptance. Alright, now let's continue with the lesson. Irika began to speak again as he wrote words onto the board from the textbook and the children listened. Sasuke still couldn't take her eyes off of Naruto. He fascinated her. He was different from the other boys and girls she had met. There was something about him that just made her want to know him better. It radiated from him, from his bright smile and welcoming demeanor to just the way he spoke with confidence. Sasuke wanted to get to know Naruto better, and she hoped she would get the chance to in the future. Konohagakure, Hokage's home, meeting room. We can't do this. It isn't right. We have run out of time and you know it's Sarutobi. This must be done so that Konoha can avert civil war. Yes, Hiruzen, have you already forgotten the Kyuubi attack? Do you remember what it cost us? I would rather not experience it again. But he's just a boy. We can't place such a traumatizing burden on his shoulders. Give me more time to speak with Fugaku. We can't do this to him. It's alright, Hokage-sama. I'll do it. Hiruzen snapped his head back towards the so far quiet Itachi Uchiha. The elders had been arguing with him about what to do with the Uchiha while the boy just watched. But Itachi, you can't really mean it. Itachi looked at Hiruzen with his usual neutral view, but inside he could tell the boy was shaking at what the consequences were. No, I understand why this must be done. I've been feeding you information to keep the peace, but my father wishes to escalate things to open conflict. I don't want that to happen, so I will do what I must to save Konoha. Clapping was heard and all 4 occupants of the room looked to see Danzo enter the room with a smile on his face. Itachi instinctively cringed and Hiruzen frowned at the sight of his old comrade. What do you want, Danzo? This is a private meeting between myself and Itachi. You shouldn't be here. The man took up a spot leaning on the wall nearby Itachi, just looking at the assembled group. I was here as one of Itachi's superior officers within ANBU. I wanted to speak with him on a similar subject to this. It seems as though the elders have already done it for me though. They share my views. The Uchiha cannot be trusted, Sarutobi. You must realize that. Itachi is in a perfect position to do this mission, but he must not remain in Konoha afterward. He will have to leave. Itachi looked at the man and then back at Hiruzen. I already have a plan for when I have to leave. I will still protect Konoha even after my departure. I only have 2 requests to make, and I also would like to ask that the elders leave for the second one. I wish only to speak with the Hokage of it. Hiruzen was intrigued by the offer while the other 3 frowned at the boy as he made such demands. As members of the Hokage's council, we will not sit out of such an impo. Hamura was stopped mid-sentence by Hiruzen's raised hand and a silent glare sent towards him. You will respect this boy's wishes. He is doing your dirty work. The least you can do is allow his requests to be heard the way he wishes. Hamura growled and sat back, impatiently gazing at Itachi for him to begin. Well, child? Begin with your requests. Koharu demanded, also tired of all the business surrounding the Uchiha. I wish for permission to allow my sister, Suzuki Uchiha, to live. I also ask that I be allowed, in connection with allowing my sister to live, allowing my mother to live as well. Hiruzen's eyes widened and the counselors on either side of him gritted their teeth and glared at Itachi. No, not a single one must be left if we wish to avoid war. How can you say you are willing to destroy your entire family when you wish to spare those 2? Quiet! Hiruzen demanded from the bickering elders, leading him to have a chance to speak with Itachi. Go ahead, Itachi. I want an explanation as to why you want those 2 to live. Silently, Hiruzen was smirking in his mind. He was glad to hear Itachi was willing to spare those close to him. You see, I love my younger sister just as any brother would. She is too young to die now when she has so much potential. And Itachi paused for a moment to steady himself. A previously unheard of emotion began to creep onto his neutral face. Her life means more to me than even this village. I don't care if she hates me for the rest of her life for what I'll do. But if she stays alive, it will be enough for me. Hiruzen was touched to hear how much the cold Uchiha really did care for his sister, while on the other hand the counselors were angered that he really would allow her to live. And? Why should we allow your mother to live when she will just rise to matriarch status of the Uchiha? Itachi glared at Danzo for his question as he said it with a foreshadowing tone. My mother doesn't have the influence nor the will to instigate a second rebellion, nor would she be able to if the other Uchiha are dead. My real reason of keeping her alive is my sister. The elder shinobi were surprised at this. Did everything relate back to Suzuki? If my sister idolizes my father and sees me as a rival, she truly loves my mother more than anything. If I was to take Makoto away from her, she would be broken inside. Sarutobi concurred with this. The girl most likely felt more love and favor from her mother than Fugaku, and it would make a larger impact if he were to kill Makoto. I see. And seeing as how you didn't have to ask for permission to do this, you want something to go along with this? Itachi nodded to Hiruzen's question. He had indeed brought it up at the meeting for a specific reason. Yes, I want you to promise me you'll protect them. I know you elders. I know that you will try and manipulate my mother and sister into propagating the clan into loyal Sharingan users. Koharu and Hamura recoiled slightly as the boy hit the nail right on the head. Danzo made no obvious move to show surprise. I can only trust you with this, Hokage-sama. Keep them safe from influence and let them live the life they choose. Otherwise, I will reveal what has happened to Konoha and the world, bringing all three of you to fraud. Hiruzen made a puff of smoke on his pipe as he thought it over. Really, there was no thinking involved, but to keep a strong facade to the elders, he had to seem as though he wasn't taking sides. In truth, he was happy that Itachi had chosen to spare a few of his family, no matter what the reasons for doing so were. He understood Itachi just as Itachi understood him. Both were pacifists at heart and wanted no bloodshed to come to them. In a way, though, this boy is stronger than I am, willing to soak his hands in blood to keep the peace. Even if he must take the blame alone. Even I have not been able to do that. I accept your terms. Makoto and Suzuki will not be ordered into doing anything they don't wish to and will be under my protection. Now then, I think it is time you three leave us. Koharu and Hamura glared at the Hokage before getting up and shuffling away. Danzo cast a lingering gaze on the two before joining the elders in leaving. Itachi's enhanced hearing picked up Danzo's final words to him, and he smirked to himself. Damn stubborn youth. Hiruzen sighed as a weight fell of his shoulders and waited to hear Itachi's second request. Itachi had been thinking about this one since he had decided he would take on the responsibility of taking care of the clan. The only reason he had accepted it, though, was because Makoto would survive. She would be a perfect choice. This isn't necessarily a request, Sarutobi. I wanted to alert you that I will be taking care of Naruto-kun's well-being from the time this meeting is over to the time I depart from the village. Hiruzen didn't make to show surprise. Itachi had grown quite attached to the boy after watching him as a silent guardian in ANBU. I see. And just what do you plan on doing with Naruto during that time? Itachi stood up from his seat and began to walk towards the door, sparing a single glance back at Hiruzen. You will come to find this decision was for everyone's best interest, Hokage. I am going to redeem my family and give Naruto a place he can call home. Konohagakure, Academy, Sunset. Alright class, that's it for today. Tomorrow we'll begin with our basic kunai and shuriken lessons. A resounding cheer revolved around the class as they finally got to use weapons. Naruto was smiling like an idiot and Suzuki was glad to know she had experience before any of the other kids. As the kids began to file out, Suzuki watched as Naruto seemed to wait for her to get up before he did as well. The two began to walk out of school together and then finally Suzuki decided to break the silence. Why are you following me? Naruto was walking alongside her with his hands behind his head and a small smile gracing his features. Suzuki had her hands in her pockets and was waiting for his answer. Well, you were nice to me today, so I thought I'd walk you home. She was surprised by his simple reasoning and giggled a bit. Are you sure you want to hang around me? Not everyone exactly likes the Uchiha. Suzuki noticed Naruto's face dip down for a second and saw him frowning. Yeah, well, not very many people like me either. She frowned at his response as she had honestly heard quite a lot about a troublesome blonde kid, but until that day she hadn't met him before. Hey, you want to see something really cool? It has to do with kunai and target practice. Naruto looked up at her smiling face and blushed a little bit. She was trying to be nice and change the subject. Wow. I don't think I've ever talked to someone for this long before. She's really... Naruto couldn't think of a word to describe the blue-haired girl except pretty. Yeah, that sounds fun. Naruto smiled, trying to take his mind off of what he was thinking. Suzuki led him into some woods that were off the beaten trail within Konoha. He hadn't been around the neighborhood before, so he could only guess they were close to Suzuki's home. He found a small stump or hill surrounded by wooden targets hanging on the nearby trees. The mound looked worn and dirty, indicating it had been used many times with the same action. Curious, Naruto watched as Suzuki stood up on the mound and closed her eyes for a moment to find balance. Suddenly, she jumped up into the air and with speed that made Naruto think they appeared out of thin air, kunai were within her hands in a second and she began to twist in the air. Each throw or flick of the hand meant a target had been hit, and Naruto was mesmerized not only by the show of skill but by the girl doing it. Just as she prepared to launch the last one, she had run out of air time and missed it by a few inches, falling onto her back. Damn! I almost had it. Naruto looked to see her on the ground, beating her fist into the dirt and crying tears of sadness. Why is she crying? What is so bad about missing one target? "Hey Suzuki, what's wrong?" She looked up at him and glared, finding him to be more of a buffoon than she originally thought. "Don't you get it? I'm an Uchiha, the village elite. If I can't even get something simple like that right, then my father." She broke into more tears and Naruto felt himself begin to move against his will to her side. Placing a hand on her cheek, he brushed away the dirt and grime mixed with tears from her pristine face. Suzuki was frozen. No one had ever touched her so gently, other than her mother. His smile meant that she couldn't bring herself to bat his hand away. Instead, she leaned into it for comfort. "Everybody makes mistakes, even an Uchiha. The most important part is that you are practicing. It's better than doing nothing at all. And besides," Suzuki could tell her face was reddening as he continued to speak comforting words, even if he himself didn't notice. "I thought that you looked really cool. I could never do any of that stuff." "Naruto." Suzuki couldn't say anything else. Nothing came to mind except two words: "Thank you." With speed that once again surprised Naruto, the red girl suddenly got up and sped off for what he figured was the direction of her home. Naruto frowned and scratched the back of his head, wondering if he did something wrong. With a final shrug, he decided he would find out tomorrow at school and began to make his way to his own apartment. Konohagakure, Uchiha compound. Suzuki soon reached the gates of her home, the Uchiha compound. Taking a few steadying breaths at the gate, she thought over why she ran away so suddenly. Whether it was her stubborn pride or the feeling of awkwardness between the boy and her, she couldn't stay there any longer. The thought of facing him at school was dreadful, but at the same time the feeling of wanting to learn more about him still existed within her. "I'll worry about it later. Right now I just want to get home." Opening the gate, she was surprised to find the streets were barren. Not a single person was out, a strange phenomenon considering what time of day it was. Not even any of the children were in the streets. Their laughter was always welcoming when Suzuki would come home. Considering the circumstances and how drastic they changed, the quiet frightened Suzuki. Closing the gate behind her, she began to run towards her own home. Maybe a meeting was being held? Or maybe there was still some event keeping the adults in Konoha and the children were at home. As Suzuki made to turn on a new street that would lead her home, she made another, more revealing discovery. Broken doors, shattered glass, and red blood stained the ground of this new street. No bodies were revealed, but Suzuki knew that something was horribly wrong. With a sense of urgency in her heart, she sped down the street to her home, hoping that nothing had happened to her mother and father. "No, this can't be happening. This isn't happening." Konohagakure, Uchiha compound, Fugaku's residence. Fugaku and Makoto were sitting in the family room, quietly enjoying some tea. He had come home early from work at the police station as he had planned to have another family meeting about what to do with Konoha. Makoto hid her disapproving frown from him by sipping on tea. It wasn't her place to tell him no to an idea, especially not one he took so seriously. Makoto. Hearing her name, she looked into her husband's eyes to see an inquisitive gaze land on her. "Are you ready to follow the clan in our rebellion? You have often been quiet at the clan meetings, and sometimes I wonder if you disagree with the idea of taking back what should be ours." "I see what must be done. You won't have a problem with me, Fugaku." The man looked at her for a moment longer before turning his attention back to his tea. He missed her frown after saying those words, though. Suddenly, urgent knocking ran through the household as Fugaku opened his eyes in surprise and set his tea down. It was coming from the front door and it sounded like trouble. He stood up and saw Makoto getting ready to follow. He held a hand up for her to wait while he checked it out. Running through the house and to the door, he saw a shadow through it and the person was pounding on the thin wooden opening. "Fugaku-sama, open the door." Sensing the urgency, Fugaku opened the door to find Teka Uchiha profusely bleeding from a cut across his chest. "What the hell's going on?" The man looked up at Fugaku. Blood began to pour from his mouth and the patriarch then noticed a blade protruding from Teka's stomach. "I'm sorry, Fugaku-sama." The man fell to his knees and hit the ground hard, revealing the assassin behind him. Itachi. Fugaku was taken by surprise to see his son standing there with bloodied armor and the blade stained with Uchiha blood. Instead of remaining shocked, His blood began to boil as he realized too late that his son really was the traitor. You bastard Itachi! You've betrayed the clan for the Senju's worthless ideals. Activating his Sharingan, Fugaku flung himself at Itachi and grappled his son's sword wrist. I'll be at a disadvantage as long as he has a weapon. Itachi said nothing as he squinted his eyes and grunted in exertion, trying to hold his father's attack back. Headbutting his son away, Fugaku prepared himself for a fight. Itachi knew he had little time until his sister arrived and decided to make use of his newest abilities. With a speed Fugaku never knew Itachi had, a genjutsu was placed on the older man as Itachi ran forward. Dispelling it, Fugaku couldn't react in time to stop the blade from piercing his chest, allowing him to watch his blood stain the walls and Itachi's sword. Damn! You! Itachi pulled the sword out and it allowed Fugaku to hobble back into the house. He headed straight to the family room to find Makoto fretting over the noises at the door. After seeing her husband bleeding from the chest, her eyes widened in horror and she rushed to help him. A hand came to her face and the slap echoed around the room. It was Fugaku's final warning. What are you doing? Get out of here. His voice faded into a whisper until he collapsed from blood loss, leaving Makoto without anyone to tell her what was going on. Fugaku! She got on her knees and tried to help him, anything to help him, but she knew no medical jutsu and there was little else she could do except clean the gaping wound. Mother! The one word that turned Makoto's spine into ice and made her hair curl was said from behind her, the voice of Itachi. Turning around, she found her son, just as she had expected, covered in blood of his family. Knowing what was about to happen, Makoto got up and prepared her own Sharingan, ready to fight if she had to. Itachi, how could you do this? Itachi said nothing to his mother at first, slowly sheathing his sword and causing the woman to lower her guard a bit. That was just the fraction of a second Itachi needed as he rushed forward and punched her gut, enough to make her double over. As the lights within her mind dimmed, she could only ask herself why she was being spared a conscious death. Itachi then began to speak, and she finally realized why. There is still much for you and Suzuki to do, mother, so I won't kill you. Keep her safe, and be sure to welcome the new arrival. She didn't know what he meant by that, but there was little time to contemplate. Unconsciousness reached her quickly and Itachi allowed her to lay down near Fugaku. Right on time, he heard a door swing open to find Suzuki, breathing heavily and choking on tears, staring at the bodies of her parents with Itachi standing over them. Itachi. Why? What's going on, Itachi? What have you done? You'll have to grow stronger, Suzuki, if you want to kill me. Let your hate take over. Let it consume you. Only then will you ever be able to kill me. Without further warning, Suzuki was put to sleep with Itachi's Sharingan. Walking over to her, he picked her up and took her to her room. With it being the last time he would see his sister for so long, he wiped away her tears and brushed her hair a bit. Leaning down, he kissed her forehead and covered her up with her blanket, careful to watch for bloodstains he might leave. Goodbye, Suzuki. Within a moment he was gone, out through her open window, leaving a broken Uchiha compound and two heartbroken girls behind. As soon as Itachi left, he was assailed by a man with a swirl mask. Itachi glared at the sight of having to see Madara again. To keep the peace, he allowed Madara to help him finish off the clan. But it appeared as though the man had decided to stick around a little longer. Why did you even bother, Itachi? He asked from the wall where he stood looking down at Itachi, who was on the barren, empty street. What do you mean? Itachi asked, and Madara just chuckled and pointed in the direction of his old home. Why did you spare them? They are just weaklings that should have been killed off like the rest of the clan. Itachi glared at him and disappeared, reappearing to stand next to Madara but facing in the opposite direction. Because love surpasses any form of hate. With love, anyone can be redeemed. Madara watched as Itachi left and he thought over what the boy said. So that's your plan, Itachi? You did seem like a bright one when I first met you, but now I see you are just a fool. It wasn't long before he left as well, leaving Konoha for what would be a long time. He had to worry about his new organization rather than some petty form of revenge. It was all for his ambitions. Konoha Gakure. Naruto's apartment. Today was pretty cool. I got to meet a cute girl, a new class, and the teacher doesn't hate me yet. Naruto was sitting on his bed, staring at his ceiling as he thought out loud the progress of his day. He had gotten back a few hours ago and had already eaten his dinner, some instant ramen with a glass of milk. With little else to do, he had sat on his bed for the rest of the evening, looking out his window and at the stars. Maybe there was a chance he would find a friend after all. He had to have friends if he wanted to be strong. Yawning, Naruto realized that it was late and he should probably get to bed. He got up and turned off the fan light and quickly hopped back into bed. Just as he was getting settled, a familiar knocking rang at his window, and he looked excitedly to see Itachi waving at him with a smile. "Hey Naruto-kun, mind letting me in?" Naruto threw the bed covers off and quickly let the young Uchiha in, allowing the now cleaned-up Itachi to step into his room. "I see you're getting ready for bed, but I have a surprise that just can't wait." Naruto got out of bed and went over to Itachi where he was kneeling down to be at Naruto's level. "What is it, Itachi and Aiha? You didn't go and get me more ramen, did you?" Itachi chuckled and shook his head, rubbing Naruto's hair playfully. "It was much better than ramen. No, I was able to find you a family." Naruto's smile immediately dropped and was replaced with a gaping maw of surprise. "A family? What did you say?" he asked, not quite believing what Itachi said. The older boy decided to play around with Naruto and repeated it. "I found you a family that was more than willing to take you in. All you have to do is give them this note when you meet them." Itachi handed Naruto a small note and saw him about to unfold it. He lightly slapped the blonde's hands. "No, only they can read it." Naruto looked at Itachi and nodded, still in shock to do anything else. "But why?" Naruto asked the Uchiha, only to receive a knowing smile. "Come on, Naruto, have you already forgotten? You always used to tell me how the only thing you wanted was a family. You said it would make you feel better and make you stronger. Did you think I wouldn't help you?" Naruto's eyes began to tear up as he realized that Itachi had meant what he said, that he really did help him. "Itachi!" Itachi grunted in surprise when the small boy slammed into him and began to cry happy tears, forcing the older boy to smile again and hug him back. There, Naruto, you'll be fine. You'll be living with my mother and sister. I'm sure they'll be happy." Naruto was taken by surprise to find out that he would be living with other Uchiha and looked at Itachi worriedly. "But what if they don't like me?" It was then that Itachi was reminded just how much the Uchiha clan had avoided Naruto, and he was sure the boy was scared his mother would be like the other adults. "Don't worry about it. My mother is a very nice woman. My sister is your age too, you must have met her somewhere." "Suzuki?" Naruto immediately recognized the name and began to smile. He would get to live with Suzuki. "Yeah, I know Suzuki. I just got moved to her class today. We got along really well." Itachi was glad to see Naruto's happiness and turned around, indicating the boy should hop onto his back. Naruto quickly obliged and Itachi leaped out the window towards the Uchiha compound. As soon as Naruto couldn't see his face, Itachi frowned and began to think on why he was taking Naruto to his compound. Yes, the boy had asked for a home and a family and Itachi was glad to grant it, but it seemed as though another reason had come to mind. "My family can never forgive me for what I've done, but maybe by giving Makoto a real son and Suzuki a real brother, maybe I can give them something they never had to begin with." It wasn't long before they arrived at the now quiet compound. The only sound was the occasional cricket chirp. Slowing his movements down to a brisk jog, Itachi soon arrived at the building and, avoiding the front entrance, took Naruto to his room through a window. Naruto was amazed at how nice the traditional home looked and found it to be quite a change from his apartment. It was much more spacious and refined, and Naruto had to say he preferred it. "All right, Naruto, now when you wake up, I want you to give that note to Makoto, my mother. That should work everything out, and then you can be part of the family." Naruto looked at Itachi confusedly as the man stood up as if he was preparing to leave. "What do you mean sleep? I'm too excited to sleep. And where are you going, Itachi and Aiha? Isn't this your room?" Itachi turned around and looked into Naruto's eyes with his Sharingan. The blue-eyed boy's eyes dilated as they watched the spinning tomos entrance him into a sleepy illusion. "I have to go, Naruto. Just remember to give that note to my mother when you wake up." Good luck. Naruto hit the bed where he had been standing on and Itachi decided to leave him sleep. With little else to do, the Uchiha left the house in search of Madara. To protect his family and Konoha, he would have to make the ultimate betrayal. Hopefully, Naruto could be the Uchiha prodigy that everyone wished had existed. A perfect cross between Senju and Uchiha. An Uchiha who could love. Chapter 2. Pretty Red Eyes. Konoha Uchiha clan compound. Makoto's house. Makoto stirred. Knocked into unconsciousness by her son and left for dead. The Uchiha matriarch was just now awakening the next morning. As soon as her eyes cracked open, she leaped up in a defensive manner. She remembered the last thing before she blacked out. Itachi telling her something about a new arrival. Her hand instinctively went to her stomach as she felt a sharp pain when she stood up. Damn! Itachi hit me very hard. Fugaku was nowhere to be seen though, and all the blood had been removed. She began to trudge through the house at a slow pace, looking for any sign that yesterday wasn't a dream. The broken door had been mended as good as new and nothing remained of the body that fell there. Makoto kept walking further out into the main compound to be met with more surprise. All the bodies were gone there as well. Nothing was left, but everything had been replaced. The compound was like a ghost town now. Surely the Hokage sent in a cleanup crew after Itachi had left, but she had never presumed they could be so thorough. I will have to be careful when I go to see him. No telling why he allowed me to be spared. Suddenly, the thought of her daughter alone at home chilled her. This was not a time where she could feel safe in her own compound. Betraying the nature of her wounded body, Makoto ran back home and straight to Suzuki's room. There she found her little girl sleeping, albeit with tears flowing from her eyes. She must have been having a nightmare. Makoto thought it best to let her sleep a while she went into town to see the Hokage. Inside her room there was a Jonin flak jacket with ninja tools she could wear back from her active duty days. Then she thought against it. If the Hokage planned to kill her, he would have allowed Itachi to do so last night. This situation just gets stranger and stranger. But I have to make sure things will be okay for Suzuki. I need to know what happened to Fugaku. With an objective set in her mind, Makoto grabbed her lace sandals, the ones with the heels, and headed out with the same clothing on as yesterday. They may have tried to clean their sins from the compound's walls, but Makoto still wore Fugaku's blood on her apron. It would show the Hokage that he couldn't hide from what he had made her son do. Little did she know, there was another still in her home and he was just about ready to wake up. Hokage Mansion. Office. The Hokage was not having a very good day. Combine the fact that the Uchiha had just been massacred down to the last man and the council was eagerly biting at him for a chance to manipulate the bodies of the dead. Today was not getting any better. Worse yet, he felt that a certain Uchiha was on her way to meet him now and it wouldn't be prudent to wallow when he had no right to. I hope that Makoto-san will at least listen to me. I'd rather not have a fight in my office. Sure enough, a muffled noise could be heard on the other side of his door. It almost sounded as if someone was arguing and things were just starting to get heated. Ma'am, you can't enter. The Hokage does not have an appointment scheduled for you. Well, he can make one. Hiruzen flinched as the door swung open with Makoto storming in with a frightened secretary trembling outside. It didn't take but another second for a squad of ANBU, the elite of the village, to arrive on the scene. If there was a disturbance anywhere near the Hokage, it was their duty to handle it with more often than not deadly force. They surrounded Makoto and had their katanas drawn, all pointed somewhere on her body that would be lethal should she decide to resist. Makoto activated her Sharingan and glared at the masked faces, daring them to go further. She may be at a disadvantage, but she was an Uchiha, damn it. Their stubborn pride came at a zenith when they were in trouble, and she would not allow herself to be pushed around by the same people who ordered the death of her people. Stand down! The ANBU glanced at the Hokage and realized his order was for them, quickly sheathing their weapons and standing back from the angry woman. Leave us. This is a meeting that is not to be disturbed. Understood. His serious tone, as rare as it was, made them know he meant business. Yes, sir. The ANBU captain led his squad out, leaving a lingering stare at the Uchiha before walking out with the door closing behind him. Hiruzen slumped back into his chair, not happy with the way the meeting began. Makoto still stood there, albeit with her Sharingan deactivated. I know you're angry, Makoto, but please sit down and listen to what I have to say. Afterward, we can do whatever you want to do. Is that okay? He talked as politely as he could, careful to not anger her further. Makoto calmed down considerably. She wasn't one to stay angry for long. If anything, the business with her clan made her distraught, but she knew that she was now the only thing left her daughter had. She couldn't risk dying because she let her emotions run through her. In fact, the chance that the clan would be attacked before their plans could come to fruition was a fear that she had for a long time. She just hoped it never would happen. Hiruzen watched as she took a few deep breaths and sat down in a chair across from his desk. Now then, I think it's obvious that I should apologize to you. The actions that have come upon your clan are in no small means my own fault, and I apologize fully for such. However, I will deign to tell you that Itachi himself volunteered for the job even when I told him we could continue with diplomatic options. I will admit the counselors forced him into a corner though and did not give him much choice. Makoto couldn't say she was surprised by the outcome. Still, it was a lot to take in. Hiruzen continued, hoping to finish before Makoto found a point to get angry at. With their current situation, those points were coming more and more often. We've already gotten a cleanup crew to your compound and brought the bodies into the village morgue, as I'm sure you've noticed. I apologize for breaching your clan's privacy within your compound, but this isn't a job I would leave for you and your daughter to do or see. Something like that could leave scars. Itachi made us promise not to order you into doing anything you or your daughter don't want to do. But you know that Danzo will find a way around that. I'm sure he plans to use the CRA on you. You know that, don't you? Makoto flinched. She had heard of the law but never thought she would have to endure it. And since Suzuki was a girl, she too would be forced into its binding contract. Its main intention was to make sure the near-extinct clan would have enough offspring to eventually have it return to its splendor glory, in the case of severe losses or disease amongst members. In the end, it was a powerful political tool that could have the surviving females paired up with just about any man from any clan and forced to have their children. It wasn't a bad proposition for surviving males, for they could take multiple wives without it being frowned upon, literally getting their own harem legally. But there were no males of the Uchiha left, just mother and daughter, leaving them with few options. Will we really be forced into it, Hokage-sama? Hiruzen could sense the despair in her voice and sought to rectify her fears. There is no doubt in my mind they will force you into it. The Uchiha are a powerful clan with their Kekei Genkai, and you know it, Makoto-san. They see the recently deceased as troublemakers and now want a loyal populace of Uchiha as a future generation. But there are options to what you can do to buy yourself time. For example, if you pick a younger boy as your husband, then they won't force you to have a child until he is older. Makoto recoiled at the thought. A younger boy? She herself was 27, relatively old in the life of a shinobi but still very young when compared to the general populace. Surely those they would attempt to pair her up with would be just as old, if not older. They would want her to have multiple husbands too. This is a lot to think about, Hokage. Hiruzen nodded in sympathy. Even if she was an adult, Makoto had enough problems on her hands than to deal with the CRA. Yes, let's move on to something else. We can take care of that when the time comes. Makoto nodded in assent, but then a thought crossed her mind. What will I tell Suzuki about her brother? Hiruzen let loose a puff of smoke from his pipe. In thought, he told us to not tell her anything. It appeared as though he already had a plan for her. I suggest you keep your idea of Itachi separate from that you tell your daughter. We both know why he did it, to keep the peace. I doubt he told your daughter that, so observe what she thinks before you tell her anything. Makoto didn't like it, but if Itachi really did have their best interests in his heart, then she wouldn't tell her daughter the truth. I would like to see my husband, Hokage-sama. Hiruzen knew that was coming and nodded. It was the least they could do was pay their respects. Yes, I think that would be a good point to stop at. Please follow me, Makoto-san, and please do not be alarmed at what you find at the morgue. Hiruzen got up and began to shuffle his way toward the door with Makoto close behind. Opening it, they found the ANBU squad was waiting outside. They quickly straightened up ramrod straight when the door opened to reveal the Hokage and Makoto. They had remained behind to keep the Hokage's wishes and steered away any who attempted to enter. Hawk, if you would. The captain nodded, and his team quickly fell into step behind them as an escort. It was mostly for precaution on the Hokage's part, but there was no telling what the village's reaction would be to a lone Uchiha walking down the street. With the ANBU following them, it would send a strong message the Uchiha were still protected members of the village. It was a short walk to the village morgue, certainly a dark place considering the rest of the bright and shining village. Inside were a few medical ninjas moving in short jogs, obviously busy with the large amount of new arrivals. Makoto felt her blood boil and her insides twist as she entered but kept strong. She had to come to terms with their deaths. Hiruzen pushed a wide set of doors open and they entered a large, cavernous room the size of a very large gymnasium. There were dozens of fold-out tables spread across the room, each of them with a coffin laying on them. The Uchiha fan decorated each at the very foot of each coffin along with the occupant's name and age. Makoto brought a hand to her mouth as she looked around her. So many dead. Itachi had not even spared the children. Their small coffins a dead giveaway. Makoto wandered through the pathways looking at each name and remembering a face, a conversation, a memory of her life with them. Her parents, her friends, and then her husband were all eventually found. Hiruzen saw her stop at a particular casket and walked over. It was her late husband, Fugaku Uchiha, the mastermind behind the Uchiha rebellion and killed by his own son. Makoto ran a hand over the wood covering him, thinking back to their times together. They were meant to be married from the start. She was the child of the original clan head, while he was one of the strongest Uchiha to be born at the time. His proficiency with the Sharingan and his existing skills led the elders to put them together for a stronger breeding stock. She hadn't minded too much, already being told of her fate long ago by her mother. Fugaku was never husband material to her though. It seemed as though it was all business and matter of course for him. Of course he would breed with Makoto and of course he would raise their kids to be strong Uchiha. There was little love in their relationship, but Makoto had tried. In the end she failed and became the loyal housewife, but even then that did not give her what she wanted in a relationship. Love. She was thankful when she had a daughter after Itachi. It gave her someone to pamper while Fugaku stole Itachi away and turned him into something that was not her son. There was no way she would have allowed him to do the same to Suzuki, even if it meant going against his wishes. Luckily, it didn't come to that as Itachi made sure he was dead before Fugaku could take any real interest in her. But even with their differences, Makoto had been promised to Fugaku since she was 15. It was hard to let go with so much time together with him, but she would be able to do so. Maybe if she got to take a look at his face then she could. Makoto made to open the casket but a gentle grip over her hand stopped her. She looked and saw Hiruzen gripping her hand and shaking his head. Makoto-san. You don't want to see him as he is now. He was avoiding something, she could tell. What do you mean? Before Hiruzen could answer, Makoto lifted the casket open and she gasped out loud. What is the meaning of this? Hiruzen sighed and could tell exactly what she was talking about. There was Fugaku in the usual garb that Konoha buried shinobi in, save that his had the Uchiha fan on the shoulders. The blood had been cleaned from his skin and the wound in his chest covered by cloth and sealed. Everything seemed just right, except of course his lack of eyes. The eyes that Makoto had known for more than a decade were now gone. Left in their wake was bottomless dark voids. Someone had harvested his eyes, and she could only guess many others had lost theirs as well. I'm sorry Makoto-san, but it is an ordinance passed long ago in accordance to dojutsu user deaths. To eliminate the possibility of an enemy taking the eyes through grave robbing or harvesting directly on the battlefield, our doctors or medics respectively are ordered to remove the eyes themselves and store them. Generally nothing is done with them and they are given back to the clan after the body is buried. However, the council is pushing for using them in future transplant experiments. Makoto shut the coffin and glared at Sarutobi, making back away a bit. That. Makoto gritted her teeth, uncharacteristically angry. Is clan property. They have no right to use them. I want them all returned to me and I will do with them as I see fit. Do you understand, Hokage? Hiruzen pondered for a moment but nodded. It was her clan and her say what to do with them. I'll let them know and do what I can to have them returned to you immediately. I apologize for the inconvenience this caused you, Makoto-san. Not that I want to change the subject hastily either, but Makoto calmed and looked at him curiously. What of your daughter? You should probably go to her and be there if she isn't already up. Makoto agreed. She hadn't planned on being with the Hokage this long. She had to return home and be there when Suzuki woke up so she could explain everything. Yes, you are right, Hokage-sama. If you will excuse me, we can continue the discussion another time. The Hokage nodded and let her pass by without any further interruptions. He heard the doors swing open and close again, leaving him alone in the room filled with dead. It was an odd moment for him to fall into thought, but he felt himself doing this more and more in his old age. She didn't mention anything about Naruto. I wonder, could she have not seen him yet? Or did I interpret what Itachi said incorrectly? Uchiha clan compound, Makoto's house. Makoto made her way through the quiet streets and felt an odd, foreboding sense in her stomach. She prayed Suzuki was still asleep. That would give her time to prepare for her explanation of the situation. With such a quiet and tense atmosphere, Makoto realized just how big the compound was. Not that its size mattered much at this point, but she had been walking through the residential area for at least 5 minutes just to reach her home that served as the inner compound with its own set of walls. It was there that our blonde Jinchuriki had just woken up and stumbled upon the front door. This house is so big. I can't believe Itachi and I got to live here. I haven't seen anyone else though. Maybe they are outside. Naruto opened the sliding door slowly, so as not to arouse any attention to himself. It was then he saw a very beautiful woman closing another set of large wooden doors that served as a gate along the wall. She turned around and saw him peeking out from her door, instantly making her go on the alert. Who is in my home? Who is there? Come out here right now. Makoto's stress was getting to her now and she felt herself about to snap. Still though, no one should be here that wasn't Uchiha. Sorry. She heard someone say in a childish voice, quiet and soft. The door swung open and Makoto's eyes widened. What was he doing here? Why you? What are you doing in my house? Naruto could tell Makoto was surprised and he couldn't blame her. Still he was afraid of what she was going to say. I was brought here last night by someone. Naruto almost forgot that Itachi said not to tell her anything. Just give her the letter. Who would that be? Makoto was getting suspicious. Who would bring the Jinchuriki boy to her house? Was this supposed to be some cruel joke? With trembling hands, Naruto took out the note and gave it to her. Makoto opened it and read the few lines of words. Slowly her eyes widened and the note almost fell out of her hands. Naruto saw her look up from the note and eye him, obviously having some internal struggle on what to do with him. Is it too soon? Should I? I mean, what Itachi says is true, but can I just bring him in like that? What would the village think? What would Suzuki think? Sorry I bothered you. Naruto's voice echoed through her ears as she watched him run past her and leave the compound. Not a word could come to her mind. She felt shamed after a few moments. Never did she think she would ever hesitate to help a child in need. It was just that after her clan's demise and her thoughts racing a mile a minute about her daughter, she had lost sight of what was going on around her. I should probably go after him. Ka-san. Is that you? Makoto whirled around and saw Suzuki by the door, rubbing her red eyes and shading them from the sun. Oh, Suzuki-chan. Makoto ran over to her daughter and embraced her tightly, holding her little body close to her frame. Suzuki was overjoyed her mother was actually alive, betraying her memories of last night. The night her brother killed their clan and called her a weakling. She didn't know why Itachi would do that, but it made her angry that even then he still had the nerve to call her weak. Seeing her mom alive though, it made her feel a little better. I thought you were gone too. Ka-san. Suzuki felt herself get smothered even further by her mother's bosom but ignored it, enjoying her warmth. I'm not going anywhere, I promise, Suzuki. The two Uchiha held each other for a moment longer before Suzuki weaseled out of her hold, curiously looking around. I woke up because I heard you talking to someone. Who were you talking to, mother? Makoto looked down in shame at that, seeing no harm in telling her daughter regardless. It was that boy, Naruto Uzumaki. Suzuki's eyes widened in happiness and she looked around, frantically calling out his name. Makoto watched her daughter, surprised at her behavior. She wasn't expecting her daughter to know him at all since last time she checked they weren't even in the same class. Where is Naruto, mother? Is he here? Mikoto shook her head sadly and looked back at Itachi's note. Mother, I'm sure you know who this boy is. I implore you to care for him when no one else will, as I must leave the village after tonight. The Uchiha downfall was arrogance. Show Konoha you can rise above that and care for a needing child. Please, mother. Itachi Uchiha. He's gone, sweetie. He ran off. Suzuki was confused. Why would he just run off like that? But why did he run off? He shouldn't just go out alone. Someone might hurt him. Makoto hadn't thought of that. The Uchiha compound was pretty far off from the rest of the village. It would take him a while to get to wherever his apartment is, maybe too long. Some villager might try something. It would be because Makoto hesitated to take him in. The thought chilled her. Maternal instincts kicking in, Makoto grabbed Suzuki's hand and led her inside. Taking her daughter along would just slow her down, and the sun was already starting to set, bathing the compound in an orange sheen. It would be difficult to find him if she couldn't be free to move around the village. Stay here, Suzuki-chan. I'll be right back with Naruto. Makoto quickly stripped her apron off, leaving her with a blouse and her long dress. Hurry back, Ka-san. We can't leave Naruto alone. Makoto ran past the gate and through the compound, reflecting on the little boy. Could Naruto really be yours, Kushina-chan? If he is, I'm sorry I didn't do something sooner. She had never given him much thought. The Jinchuriki was put out of her mind by Fugaku with his plans and her housework and children. But if he really was the son of her best friend, then that meant he truly had no family to care for him. That thought gripped her heart with such sadness that threatened to break it. How could she be so cruel to him? Not just for Itachi or Kushina's sake. Makoto would care for Naruto because she couldn't stand to think of another alternative. Hang on, Naruto-kun. Don't let me be too late. Makoto searched throughout the village, jumping from rooftop to rooftop searching for the bright blonde head. Alleyways, restaurants, and even the hot springs were on her list of destinations, but she could not find him anywhere. It was then she saw the school and decided to check there as well. Konoha's Ninja Academy. There he was, Makoto thought in triumph. Naruto was idly swinging on a wooden swing underneath a tree in front of the academy. The look on his face, while difficult to see with the sun shining in her eyes, was that of pure sadness. It made Makoto want to hug him tight and tell him it would be okay, but she wasn't sure if Naruto would appreciate that after their first meeting. He might not be happy to see me. Makoto steeled herself with a look of determination. But I won't give up so easily, Naruto. He looked up and saw her, the Uchiha mother. His eyes sunk again. She probably wanted to yell at him for being in her home uninvited, but he felt too depressed to stay and listen. Sorry? I was just leaving to go back home. Naruto slumped off of the swing and started walking away from her, in the opposite direction she came. Makoto watched him shuffle off and she couldn't wait any longer. So she stepped forward and spoke with her motherly voice. Where are you going, Naruto-kun? The Uchiha compound is on the other side of town. Naruto stopped mid-step. Did he hear her right? What did you say? Makoto walked up to him as he slowly turned around to look into her sweet onyx orbs. She bent down and gave him a big smile. I said you are coming home with me? Aren't you, Naruto? She opened her arms wide and he leaped into them with tears streaming down his face, strained sobs erupting from his mouth. Makoto didn't mind his tears staining her shirt, nor did she mind him snuggle further into her breasts. She just knelt there, holding him and rubbing his back like a mother should. Come on, Naruto. Let's go. The Uchiha picked him up and held him tight as she began to make her way back home with her prize. At least one good thing happened for us today, she thought with a smile. The new addition to the Uchiha was a cute one, at least with those whiskers. Like bringing home a puppy. Uchiha compound, dining room. After Naruto came home with Makoto, Suzuki had cheered up quickly. It was a welcome change to her crying in her sleep earlier, and it almost felt like nothing had happened to the Uchiha previous to that night, almost. The quiet house was now filled with laughter as the children got reacquainted with each other, this time as brother and sister instead of classmates. They sat in the dining room, or family room as Fugaku called it when they had their meetings. Those days were the quietest. The house had never felt more tense when he would speak of the coup. But that was over now. Instead, she had 2 children that lit up the house and made it happy, at least for one night. All right, you two calm down. I need to speak with Naruto. Makoto chided, getting them to calm themselves as they sat next to each other across from her. Naruto-kun, do you understand what it means to be a part of our family? You will be an Uchiha. Do you know what that means? Naruto thought a little while about it, wondering if it was a trick question. Sasuke laughed at his thinking face as if he was about to explode. It means I'm going to be really strong, and I get to live with Suzuki and Mikoto-chan all day, he shouted in enthusiasm, getting a giggle from the girl and a smile from the mother. Well, that might be part of it, but power isn't everything. You have to be nice and sweet too. We haven't had any of that in this house for a while. Naruto nodded enthusiastically. I'm always happy and I try to be nice to everyone. I just thought I didn't have to mention it. Makoto laughed a bit. He was so young and innocent. I hope he keeps that innocence, even when he becomes Uchiha. So does this mean Naruto-san will be my brother? Sasuke asked innocently to her mother, making the woman point at Naruto with a smile. It's up to him. Without hesitating, Naruto shouted his answer. Yes. Hey guys. Short author note because I don't know what else to say except sum up important events. Poll on profile, check it out after you drop a review. Also keep in mind the whole Kakashi/Sensei, and if you want someone else as their teacher, give an idea about what mission I could substitute for Wave. I'm kinda getting tired of the same old thing too, you know? On with the final bit. Makoto was next to Naruto's bed, telling him a story passed down through the Uchiha. As they were a warrior clan, it was a bit violent even if it was considered for little kids. Naruto didn't seem to mind though, as he enjoyed it through to the finish, just as Sasuke had as well. Only Itachi saw less interest with it, especially as he aged. Miko-chan. Naruto squeaked out cutely, not used to calling her mother yet. She thought his nickname for he was cute though and knew he would call her his mom in time. Yes, Naruto? He fidgeted like he was nervous about something and Makoto became worried. You talked about the Char. Sure. Makoto smiled as he referenced from the story, the clan's dojutsu. The Sharingan? Naruto nodded, not sure how else to say it. Do all Uchiha have it? Makoto shook her head and Naruto deflated a bit. No, Naruto, some Uchiha do not go through ninja training and therefore most do not ever run into the chance to awaken it. Others have diluted genes and have lost the ability to spread the Sharingan or use it. Even then, most Uchiha who enter ninja service at one time or another get the chance to activate it. Then they can train it to become more powerful. Naruto thought about it for a moment before asking another, more personal question. Do you have them? Makoto hesitated but nodded nonetheless. She didn't activate it much though since she became a housewife. Can I see them? That was where Makoto started to think against continuing the conversation. He was obviously tired and she wasn't sure he knew what he was saying. Naruto-kun. Many think of our eyes as scary. I don't want to give you nightmares. Naruto shook his head. He was determined to see it. Miko-chan isn't scary. I want to see them. She sighed. He obviously wasn't going to stop until she showed him. Okay. But just for a little while, okay? Naruto nodded and Makoto closed her eyes for dramatic effect, activating her Sharingan. Opening them, Naruto's eyes stopped wandering as the only thing in the room that wasn't dark lit up. Her eyes were blood red now with 3 tomos in the middle surrounding a circle where her iris was. Wow! Naruto said quietly, reaching a little hand up to touch. Makoto guided it to her cheek and let him lean up to get a closer look, finding it cute how he was amused by her eyes. Miko-chan, you have pretty red eyes. She blushed, betraying herself. You aren't scared. Are you Naruto? She said as more of a statement to confirm it. He shook his head. No. Kasan's eyes are pretty as red and black. Makoto gasped. He called her mother. Maybe it was because he was starting to doze off though. She watched him slouch back into bed. Since I'm an Uchiha now, does that mean I get red eyes too? So young and foolish she thought, he based things off names not blood and DNA. She took a sympathetic smile as she deactivated the Sharingan and leaned over him to kiss his forehead goodnight. No, Naruto. You have to be born an Uchiha to get our eyes. I'm sorry. Naruto frowned but soon yawned as she kissed him and brought the blankets up to his face. Maybe. His voice grew to a whisper as he began to drift into his dreams. There is another way. For me to get eyes like Ka-san. Makoto's eyes widened. Would he go that far? No, she told herself it was just his dreams. Chapter 3. Naruto Uchiha. Uchiha Compound. Makoto's house. Makoto was in the kitchen preparing a meal for the two children in her care before they went off to school. All had woken up early so they could have family talk of sorts, and they were waiting patiently in the family room for her to come out. The Uchiha mother had placed her bloody apron away and adopted more presentable outfit under her cooking apron, a tight red sweater with a pair of blue pants and her lace sandals. Not worthy of combat, but good enough for a meeting with the elders. That was something she had the pleasure of experiencing today as well, she thought with a scowl. A messenger had told her of a scheduled meeting between the surviving Uchiha matriarch and the village council. The title they gave her surely was a sad attempt of kissing up to her to give them an edge in negotiations. It would do them little good though, because all they would be discussing is the Uchiha's future in Konoha. What little to discuss there was. I won't let them take advantage of my Suzuki, even if it means sacrificing my own future. Makoto thought with a grimace. They would surely go for the younger Uchiha while she was still able to be influenced over her mother's own terms, if she had to guess as well. There was also the case of Itachi, the last remaining male Uchiha, and her son. Where did he leave Konoha for? Why hadn't the village sent hunter nins after him already? There was something odd about how nonchalant they were about him leaving, even if it was their orders that led him to do so. That was something she would bring up at the meeting as well. There was no one in Konoha she could trust, not even the Hokage. No matter how noble and honest he was with her, Makoto knew that a part of him totally agreed with the outcome that came from the destruction of her clan. Even a part of her knew that Konoha would be in dire straits if the Uchiha had been allowed to continue with their plans. The Uchiha were her clan though. There was no doubt which side she was loyal to, and the council had to know that. That was why they were going to try and control her now. She could hear their laughter from the other room. Those two were the only ones she could trust. That meant she would do whatever it took to protect them. Ka-san, hurry up. Suzuki's voice rang through the thin sliding doors, and Makoto looked back at her cooking to see it was done. Fish with some rice and soup, a quick and light breakfast. It's coming, you too. With expertise rivaling a waitress, Makoto entered the family room with all three of their meals to set down on the small table. Naruto and Suzuki sat next to each other as usual, and Makoto sat across from them, eating their food in relative silence. They were still getting used to one another and how they acted. Naruto hadn't been in such a formal setting before and didn't know how to act, so he reverted to being shy. Suzuki and Makoto were nervous they would scare him further, so they didn't say anything. Naruto-kun. Makoto broke the silence, and Naruto brought his attention from his food to her. You know, I already stocked your closet with clothing that Itachi had when he was your age. Did you like any of them? She asked to broach the subject of his new clothing, as Naruto now wore a black shirt and beige shorts. I like them, Miko-chan. Are you sure I can wear them though? They are pretty new and stuff. Naruto never got new clothing or new anything. Everything was hand-me-downs from the Hokage. Of course you can wear them, Naruto. Makoto chided with a laugh. They are your clothes now. Naruto blushed and nodded, still not used to such generosity. You can get clothes like mine with the Uchiha fan after you pass the fireball test, Naruto. He looked at Suzuki as she turned around to let him see the Uchiha fan proudly stamped on her blue, high-collar shirt. Fireball test? Naruto looked expectantly at Makoto, and she brushed a strand of hair back uncomfortably, silently berating her daughter for broaching the subject so carelessly. What if he doesn't have a fire affinity? At his age, Naruto wouldn't understand and would get crushed if he couldn't do the technique. He isn't a natural-born Uchiha like Suzuki. All young Uchiha are given a test by their parents to see if they have earned the right to be called an Uchiha and wear the fan on their clothing. The test is to see if you can use the Uchiha clan jutsu, Gokakyu. Whether you pass or fail the first time, you won't be considered a true Uchiha unless you can do that jutsu. It's an old tradition passed down since a young Uchiha youth created the fireball jutsu. All Uchiha believe that if their child can create it at the same age, they are destined to be a prodigy. Naruto seemed excited over the prospect of trying it, while Makoto was still apprehensive. When can I try it then? Makoto gave an awkward smile and hesitated a moment. Well, we will have to do it sometime tomorrow, Naruto-chan. Ka-san has a meeting today right after breakfast and it can't wait, so I won't have time to teach you the technique. I promise we will do it though. Naruto deflated a bit but cheered up when she promised they would get around to it. Don't worry, Ka-san. I can teach him the jutsu after school today to give him a head start. That way he can shoot a fireball to welcome you back from your meeting. Sasuke encouraged him and he smiled at her, thankful she would do that for him. Thanks, Sasuke. Naruto blushed in embarrassment when she gave him a sweet smile. Don't worry, Naruto. That's what brother and sister are supposed to do. Makoto instantly smiled when she heard that. The two were getting along just fine. Okay, you two. It's time for you to get going or else you'll be late for class. Makoto ushered them out with lunch and a wave goodbye while she quickly set to doing the dishes so she wouldn't leave any strings at home. It didn't take long before her household chores were done. Really, she didn't mind being late to the meeting just to spite the elders. It was the least discomfort they could have in return for what happened to her. Makoto didn't know how long she would hold the grudge against them. Perhaps forever. If so, they had better be prepared to endure such hardships while she was still alive. Hokage house, office. Hiruzen sat at his desk with Hamura and Koharu flanking his sides as usual, albeit they were quite impatient at the time. Makoto Uchiha, the one they had called a meeting for, was over 15 minutes late. For a civilian that was a little disappointing. For a ninja to be late, it was obvious they were being mocked. The Hokage knew of course Makoto was quite aware of the meeting and the time, but she could afford to be late. With what we will discuss, can you blame her? I would be hesitant in her position as well. Where is that damn woman? Hamura muttered in anger. She had the nerve to stand them up at such a critical time? She will be here soon. In fact, I think we will be seeing her very shortly. Hiruzen calmed his teammate and soon enough, Makoto joined them in the office. She said nothing as she walked to her seat with a straight face and sat down, looking directly at the Hokage. They took this as the meeting start and began to lay into her immediately. Welcome, Makoto-san. Although I feel you might have gotten the times mixed up in your head. Koharu carefully scolded the grown woman as she indicated the clock. We are over 15 minutes late in starting this session because of your tardiness. No mistake was made, elder. I was not informed of the gravity of this meeting, therefore I did not take the time given as compulsory. Hiruzen thought he detected some haughtiness to Makoto's tone and knew she was getting angry. That aside, Hiruzen stepped in to keep the peace. This meeting has been called to assess the situation of the Uchiha currently and for future efforts in continuing the bloodline in Konoha. He did not wish to use the CRA as a proper term, nor did breeding seem like an appropriate word either. Either translation further made to unsettle Makoto in her seat. Yes. Would you please give us a complete rundown of the Uchiha clan and its current members, Uchiha Dano? Suddenly they gave her the respect a matriarch deserved. The spiteful bastards. We have suffered grievous losses after the massacre. One might I add you forced on us elders. This wouldn't be necessary if the outcome had been different. Makoto retorted, as if they didn't know where the Uchiha stood. They probably had each pair of eyes recovered counted with a certain amount of glee. Touché, Hiruzen thought as Makoto bit back at them. The woman took out some notes she wrote down from her study in the compound after receiving some information from the medical neens in charge of the Uchiha dead. Our casualty list just recently arrived from the morgue. Numbers and names were detailed. 62 Uchiha are dead. This includes children and elderly. Makoto glanced at the elders to see if they reacted, but received nothing but a quirk of lips. She sighed and continued. 40 pairs of Sharingan eyes have been confirmed recovered, while the rest did not test positive for the dojutsu activated, therefore rendering them useless. That was a point the elders were a bit disappointed in. If only all Uchiha had some form of the dojutsu activated, they would have had a higher amount of genes to choose from. On a side note, Makoto glanced up from her notes with an accusing glare at the three in front of her. I have no record of Uchiha Shirsue's eyes being recovered, nor his body being located in the morgue. Would you elders or the Hokage mind telling me where he is? There was an edge to her voice, suspicion of foul play. I was not alerted that Shirsue was not among the dead. Then again he was killed a few weeks previously, correct Makoto-san? The Hokage asked, genuinely confused at the situation. The two elders remained silent, but also thought the disappearance of the body was odd. Yes, that is correct. However, to the best of my knowledge, he was kept in the morgue until this point in time because my hus-. Makoto paused in the middle of the word. Fugaku decided to keep him from being buried until we could have a proper funeral. We were busy at the time. Makoto ended quietly, indirectly admitting to their time plotting the coup. We will have this matter investigated immediately, Uchiha. You have our word. The disappearance of such a prestigious shinobi like Shisui-san is a disgrace and must be rectified immediately. Hamura declared and received a nod of agreement from Koharu and Sarutobi. Makoto knew it was just being polite, but as long as they found the body she didn't care. Shisui had very powerful, very dangerous eyes. If someone stole his body to use for themselves, that will cause trouble later on. Moving on. What, in your opinion, is the Uchiha's current status, Uchiha? Koharu progressed the meeting after a moment of awkward silence when they were left to their own thoughts. There isn't much of a clan left, elder. There is myself, the matriarch, along with my children. Our compound is in perfect shape though, and our clan archive remains untouched. We have the facilities for more clansmen, but for now we have no way of getting back our former strength. At this, the elder's attitude turned from neutral to devious, and Makoto and Hiruzen both knew where it was going. We have found a way to rectify the problem, Uchiha. When a clan is in dire straits, the Clan Restoration Act is placed upon their family until the size of the clan is well enough to sustain itself without such emergency measures. May we presume you know of what it details? Hamura stated with hidden excitement, and Makoto resisted the urge to vomit, giving a shrug instead. Enlighten me of the procedure, elder. He was hoping she would say something like that. While this usually only pertains to the males of the clan, in such an unfortunate case as the Uchiha are in, we only have females left. That means we must be extremely careful with the breeding pairs we give you to make sure your clan has the best chance of continuing with the Sharingan and any other positive genes we can get from the father. Hiruzen listened as his teammate explained the act to the woman, silently hoping Makoto would not overreact as he had warned her beforehand. While you may begin breeding immediately, Uchiha, your daughter will have to wait. However, not one to be unprepared, Koharu now continued the explanation. We can still set up her future partners for when she turns the healthy childbearing age of 16. She will be fully prepared to continue the Uchiha line. Of course, there will be time for you to rest between births, and we will take care of any help you may need in caring for them while you are busy fulfilling the CRA. Makoto found the thought disgusting, forcing them to have multiple partners and not even getting to take care of their children afterward. The elders must have been out of their minds if they thought she would allow this. Unfortunately, she could not just be allowed to do nothing when the Uchiha and more importantly the Sharingan meant so much to Konoha's military strength. Whether she liked the idea or not, Makoto would be forced into having someone's children much sooner than she would care to. But if there was a chance to spare Suzuki, at least until she found the right one, Makoto would find a loophole. Before we continue, elders, at least let me speak my mind on the subject, as this is my body and my daughter's that we are talking about. I will not allow myself, but more so my daughter, to be forced into a pairing where there is no relationship, only duty. I have been in a relationship like that for the past 12 years, and I did not like the experience. The elders had hoped she would remain quiet and docile, but of course she would speak her mind to them. Uchiha, you must understand it's a difficult balance between your feelings on the matter and the duty to the village and your clan to continue. Makoto's glare cut the elder off and let her have the floor again. I will decide how far my loyalty to the village goes, and I damn well know my duty to my clan. My daughter and I will most likely have children in our futures, however. It will be with someone we wish to have children with and not yours. Just as the elders were thinking of a smart retort, Danzo decided to make his presence known. Uchiha-san, you should know such a weak excuse will not allow you to escape the CRA so easily. Makoto twisted in her seat to see Danzo shuffle in and look at her with a thinly opened eye, like a constant glare. Sympathy is not my strong point, so excuse me for not feeling too much over your past experience. Your past husband failed as a Konoha shinobi and as a lover, But that doesn't dash. Makoto had kicked over her chair as she stood up in pure outrage over his accusation. Danzo, what is the meaning of this? You were not to come. Sarutobi did not like his old comrade's entrance already and hoped to cut it short. I'm sorry, Sarutobi, but I cannot allow this woman to jeopardize the future of a great bloodline because she allows her feelings to get in the way of the village's best interest. Now, Uchiha-san, if you want to leave this meeting without even stricter restraints on your clan and your daughter, I highly suggest you give us a name for you and your daughter's future husband or husbands if you do so choose. Makoto flinched and realized he had backed her into a corner. It was true, Danzo and the elders could make the Uchiha have an even worse time in Konoha than they were now. Even worse, an accident could befall her, leaving her unable to care for Suzuki and Naruto and leave them for the Vulture Council. Danzo enjoyed seeing the woman deflate as she realized just what power he held. He only came because he knew the elders would fail in persuading her. The woman was stubborn and was thinking with her heart when she should think with her head. How can you expect me to have an answer to such a question so quickly? Makoto was at a loss for words. What was she to say in response to that? It was a life-changing decision who you would marry and have children with, definitely not one that could be made in a few moments. Danzo, your interruption has disrupted this meeting. I should adjourn it right now for your disrespect of this council and the Uchiha. But it is true that Makoto-san must make a decision. I need to speak with her in private for a moment. Hiruzen looked at his two teammates and inclined his neck toward the door. Elders, please excuse yourselves for a few minutes. Koharu and Hamura were flabbergasted, too shocked to say anything in response as they slowly shuffled out. Danzo left a lingering glare before joining them in the hallway and closing the door behind them. Hiruzen sighed and waved a hand toward another chair that Makoto hadn't knocked down, but she refused to calm herself. Makoto, I know this is a troubling development, but I have to agree with Danzo. Making a premature decision can most definitely be life-changing for the both of you, but that doesn't mean you can't change your mind in the future. Your daughter still has many years before she is of age where this will be implemented. Hiruzen stood beside her, speaking encouragingly in her ear as she shook with rage. And there are ways for you to avoid the CRA as well. Do you remember what I told you yesterday? Makoto thought back and couldn't believe he was having her consider the idea. It was disgusting. A younger man, Hokage-sama? How can you ask me to choose a boy where I am twice his age? How will he even take it knowing he is to breed with a total stranger? She said the word with disgust. I can't do that. Besides, I know no boy that would be young enough to keep me from having intimacy with him for more than a few years. Hiruzen sighed. He had already thought of a suggestion. No matter how outrageous she would think it was, he would give it a shot regardless. As he said before, though, it was merely a delay tactic, or at least that would be all Makoto would have to see it as. How about you choose Naruto as your daughter's and your own choice? Makoto had been staring at the floor until that point but was now openly gaping at the Hokage. Naruto, but he is only 7 years old. And I adopted him as an Uchiha. We are practically mother and son now. He wouldn't understand. I would feel like I'm betraying his trust by using him like that. Hiruzen nodded. He could see where she was coming from. I know, Makoto-san. But Naruto does not have to know of the arrangement between you two until he is older, when you have to fulfill the CRA. Telling him of his engagement to Suzuki, however, would be satisfactory and keep them both from asking any further questions. Makoto calmed a bit but still looked unsure over the situation, feeling a pit of guilt growing in her stomach. Hiruzen moved closer to her and put a comforting hand on her shoulder, indicating she look at him. Makoto, I'm very sorry that you have been thrust into the spotlight like this. If anything, you should be mourning your clan right now and my teammates, and I should be kissing your feet in apologies. However, we both must look at the situation at what is best for you and your children. Introducing a total stranger as your partner to the children will affect them terribly at this young of age. Not to mention you yourself would not be happy at all. Naruto and Suzuki surely get along and would have plenty of time to warm up to the idea of marriage, giving you plenty of time to find the right partner as they grow up. Who knows, you might even decide to choose Naruto as well, no matter how outrageous that sounds now. He quickly added the outrageous part, seeing her disgusted face. It wasn't that she didn't think Naruto to be an unattractive boy when he would grow up, Being the son of the Yondaime surely gave her plenty to imagine in his older age. However, she had already begun to see him as a son and felt that he saw her as an adult and maybe later a mother. Their relationship couldn't go farther than that in her eyes as long as the two kept on the same thought process. I think you are right, Hokage-sama. I'm afraid they won't allow it though, especially not for the both of us. He is seen to them as the Jinchuriki, a powerful tool to the village, not some select male breeding stock. Hiruzen pondered it for a moment before moving over to his desk and opening up a drawer where he pulled out a scroll. Well then, he said with a smirk, we will just have to prove to them he is proper breeding material. Uchiha compound, Pier. Naruto and Sasuke were coming home after a long day of school. Nothing much new was learned that day, and the two new family members were excited for their next activity. Sasuke was leading him through the compound to the pier her father took her to take the initiation test herself. There she would teach him the hand signs and let him try it. Of course she had no idea how to actually teach someone a technique at her age. For Uchiha the fire affinity usually came quite naturally and didn't take much effort for such a simple jutsu to be formed. Naruto was a wild card in the subject though. There was no telling if he could even manipulate fire let alone control his chakra for it. The day was sunny, as usual for the warm fire country. Even though she knew it had no real effect on fire jutsu, Sasuke always liked to think that the sun gave her luck with her initiation test. Maybe Naruto would get that luck too. Come on Naruto, it's over here. Sasuke ran ahead of Naruto as he did his best to keep up. He had plenty of energy but she seemed to be bursting at the seams. Wait up Sasuke-chan. I can't run that fast. She ignored him and ran ahead, coming to a stop at the mouth of the pier on the small lake on the edge of the compound. It was then her excited smile gave way to a small frown. This was one of the only fond memories she had of her father. It was here she pulled him along to see her successful fireball and where he had shown her a smile, one that was directed to her with pride. He had never done that before with her, not even with her good grades. He always saved them for Itachi. Sasuke had her mother for praise and smiles, but she still wanted approval from her father. Because he reserved his only for when he was truly impressed, that was why it made such an impact on her. And now, he was dead, killed by the man who he poured all his pride and love into. Sasuke felt so vulnerable at that moment. She didn't even realize a few tears had fallen from her eyes. Naruto had finally caught up with the girl to see she was just standing there, not saying anything. Since she was staring at the pier, her back was toward him, keeping him from seeing her tears. Naruto saw her shake a bit and went over to see what was wrong, confused at her sudden change. Sasuke, are you okay? This woke the girl up and she quickly brushed her cheeks free of the tears. No need to worry Naruto with my problems. He's dead now anyway. Itachi is out of my reach too. Right now I just have to care for Naruto and Kasan. Yeah. Sasuke replied, coughing a bit to quiet the flutter in her voice. I'm fine Naruto. Come on. I'll show you the hand signs now. Naruto kept staring at her for a second but then shrugged in ignorance. Absolute zero ability in reading emotions. Sasuke went through the hand signs once slowly for Naruto see, giving him a chance to practice with just the movements. Then, going through them with a practice speed and ease, Sasuke created a small fireball that extended some amount over the water from the pier. Naruto watched the fire blow in the wind with a trance as it raced from Sasuke's mouth and then dissipated back to its point of origin. Okay Naruto, you try. What followed for 2 full hours was Naruto's attempt at channeling his overwhelming amounts of chakra into a fireball. Unfortunately, his body just could not get a handle on the manipulation of the chakra, let alone infusing it with a nature affinity he might not have had. Naruto felt it was a bad start to training, but Sasuke took it especially hard as she thought it was her fault. Sorry, Naruto-kun. Sasuke teared up a bit as she apologized to the confused Naruto. I must be a terrible sensei if I couldn't help you learn a jutsu so simple like this. Maybe Irika-sensei could dash. Naruto cut her off with a hug that shocked her into quiet. That's not it, Sasuke-chan. I'm sure with more practice I can get it. You are a great teacher. I like listening to you a lot more than Irika-sensei. Not to mention you're prettier than him. Sasuke blushed at his comment, even if Naruto was ignorantly comparing her cuteness to a guy. I'll take what I can get. Thank you Naruto. How about we go home for today and try again tomorrow? I bet Ka-san is back from her meeting by now anyway. We should welcome her. Naruto agreed and the two set off for home, feeling better than when they arrived. Makoto's house, family room. Mikoto waited for the children to arrive, however. She was too lost in her own thoughts to hear the door open and shut with childish laughter and the pitter-patter of feet on wood to notice the arrival of her children. She had just promised her daughter and herself to a 7-year-old boy who was the outcast of the village. Was that not crossing some line? What would her friend Kushina say to her marrying her son? You go, girl. Show Sochikuin how a cougar does it. Makoto blushed. Better she not think of it. Still, though, the prospect of morality wasn't the only thing that concerned her. The council's demands were strict and binding to the contract CRA. They would have no choice to follow if they wanted any semblance of freedom in the village. To protect her children, she would have had to have taken this course of action, which is why she did so. The elders were at first outraged at the thought of us marrying Naruto, but with Hiruzen's quick thinking and persuasive tactics allowed them to think they had all bases covered. In a way they do, though. No matter what will happen with my choices, they will get Uchiha children. Still, though, at least Sasuke may be happy with the choice. Ka-san. Naruto and Sasuke tackled the woman as she sat there in a trance, waking her up from her inner thoughts. The family shared a laugh as they lay on the cold floor, just staring at the ceiling in a moment of closeness. Makoto glanced at the two and noticed how they seemed happy, so oblivious to the world of problems that surrounded them. Better it stay that way, though, she thought. What was a child without blissful ignorance? It was their right after all. How was school today, you two? Makoto asked and got the usual grumbles, even from Sasuke. It looked like Naruto's enthusiasm for school was rubbing off on her honor student. We will be learning about chakra manipulation and nature elements next, though, mother, so maybe Naruto can do the initiation afterward. Makoto was reminded of Naruto's initiation by that remark and made to ask how it went. I didn't pass, Ka-san, Naruto said quietly as he looked up at her with disappointed eyes. But I will keep trying so I can be a real Uchiha, like you said. I want to be with you guys. Makoto smiled as she felt him hug her tighter and rubbed his back in comfort. You already are with us, Naruto-kun. Don't feel pressured into completing the technique. Since you are going to learn about it anyway, I'll tell you about nature chakra now. The 5 basic elements are water, earth, wind, fire, and lightning. Each person has at least one affinity and can train themselves to harness more, but there is no guarantee of one particular element. Makoto lectured them in a professional, motherly tone on the subject, as it wasn't something academy students could grasp easily without first-hand knowledge. Naruto, natural-born Uchiha, generally always have a fire affinity, meaning they can use fire techniques without any intensive training. You come from the Uzumaki, though, a very well-known clan that used water as a primary affinity. Naruto suddenly felt very down that he had the opposite affinity, but Makoto encouraged him to continue listening. But that doesn't mean you have water, and it doesn't mean you don't have fire. We will just have to have you practice and see what you can and can't do. I know if you work hard enough, you can master any technique. Sasuke, who was on the other side of Makoto, sat up to look at Naruto and smiled. Yeah, Naruto, you are an Uchiha like us. Uchiha are powerful and can learn any technique, so I'm sure you can learn Gokakyu in no time. Naruto felt encouraged and nodded in assent, making that part of the conversation done. So, Ka-san, how did your meeting go? Sasuke asked after a while of more silence and staring at the ceiling. Makoto knew this was coming up and decided against keeping much from either of them, just what Hiruzen suggested. If Naruto knew he was marrying both of them, the thoughts of her being his mother and wife would confuse his young mind between both titles and could break their current relationship. Besides, it wasn't anything he had to worry about for a while. The council said that I have to be pregnant by him turning 18, so we have plenty of time for me to think of something. Makoto was at least thankful they had so much time, not expecting the elders to give them such space to work with. Well, the Hokage and I talked about the Uchiha and what will happen with us in the future. She had a pause halfway through, trying to think of the best way to word it. The kids didn't mind and listened closely. The Hokage said that because the Uchiha are so powerful, we have to make sure that we have Ways to keep the clan going in the future. This is so difficult with children so young as them. I can't use the terms intimacy or breed or else they will overreact. Yeah. How do we make more Uchiha Ka-san? Suzuki muttered in thought, trying to figure out how that would work out. Her mother had the decency to hide her blush and cursed as Naruto seemed to adopt a thinking pose too. That's something you will find out when you are older. Their mother's quick reply made them quiet down and accept it for truth, allowing her to continue with her awkwardly worded conversation. It was decided that we had to ensure that in the future we could have more Uchiha, and that you two could stay together very closely to help with this. Suzuki seemed to be catching on, something her mother wasn't surprised of. However, Naruto seemed to still be trying to wrap his head around the idea. Hopefully he will grow out of this. It's probably because he doesn't have much experience with people. You two are engaged to be wed in the future, when you are older. This is to ensure the clan's line continues without any problems. Makoto trailed off as her daughter blushed and Naruto was still thinking, apparently not hearing what she said. We are going to be like you and Tsunade? Makoto just nodded, accepting the comparison. Hopefully there will be more love though than our marriage. Then again, it's starting out just like ours did. An arranged one. Suzuki said nothing, mulling the thought over. She liked Naruto, sure, but at such a young age it was impossible to think over such a big change to her future. It would take time, she figured, to get used to, but her mother was someone she could trust and they would have plenty of time to think it over and get used to each other. Okay. I trust you, Ka-san. Makoto smiled and gave her daughter a small hug as Naruto was still sitting up, thinking over what she had said. So, the two turned to him, figuring he had arrived at a conclusion finally. Is this marriage thing like some special brother-sister thing the Uchiha do? Because I don't know what it is. Makoto just gaped at him in amazement. He didn't understand yet, and Suzuki grumbled inside. My future husband is a baka. Great. She droned sarcastically while Makoto started explaining the prospect of two people being married. Once Naruto had been thoroughly explained to the whole process, he was fully embarrassed and blushing like Suzuki was. Still though, he was 7 and they both didn't comprehend everything that went into marriage even if they thought they did. They've got plenty of time too. Suzuki has to have a child by 16. By then it will be clear if they like each other or not. If not, then they will have plenty of friends from the academy to choose from. Makoto was as satisfied as she could be with the outcome of things, if only for now. Alright, you two. It's getting late. I'll go make us some food and then it's off to bed for you two. Makoto hurried to the task she had given to herself while they went out into the garden to bathe in the last of the sun's rays. Makoto watched them play through the kitchen window, smiling at their carefree attitudes even after such a bomb had been dropped on them, regardless of her trying to soften the blow. As long as they are still smiling, I have a reason to keep trying for Konoha and for the Uchiha. Makoto's home. Naruto's room. Makoto was tucking Naruto in again as she did the previous night, however. This time she had to broach a particular subject to him as it was brought up by the council. Hiruzen was not wrong when he mused on their interest in the Sharingan for future transplant operations. What he nor Makoto had expected was they put Naruto forward as one of the receivers. While they knew that giving him the Sharingan would in no way increase the chance of her or Suzuki having children with the gene, they figured it would be a worthy investment into the village's weapon if they could give him the Sharingan eyes. It was even more in favor because he was now adopted into the Uchiha family, who better for him to help harness these powers than the owners of it themselves. If Makoto wasn't around, she seriously doubted they would still consider the transplant, for he would have no one to learn from. A book in the hands of a person who was illiterate. But what mattered to her the most was Naruto's opinion. If he didn't want the eyes, then she wouldn't let him have them. End of story. Even if she knew she could train him to protect himself better with them if they forced the eyes on him, she would not force the boy through any more than he had already been through of manipulation. Naruto-kun. Makoto purred in his ear as his tired eyes turned to her, noticing she still remained at his bedside when he was covered by blanket. Yes, Miko-chan. He responded with a tired yawn, saying her nickname again in response to her name for him. Do you remember when you asked me about the Sharingan? He nodded. You said you wanted the red eyes. Why do you want them? Naruto's tiredness set aside for later. He sat up in bed and looked into her onyx orbs with determination. Why are you asking, Ka-san? Makoto swallowed the lump in her throat and continued hesitantly. Ka-san can give you the red eyes you want, but you will lose your blue ones. Do you want that? She was almost choking up with tears asking him this. How could she make a 7-year-old choose to lose something as personal as his own eyes? Naruto's response made her almost choke. Yes, I want that, Ka-san. I want the red eyes. He said it so seriously that she couldn't even put it off as a joke. What did he mean he wanted them? Naruto, do you know what you are saying? Why would you give up your blue eyes when you've had them forever? Naruto looked down at his blanket and gripped it tightly with his hands, knuckles turning white. I want to be strong enough to protect Ka-san and Sasuke, just like Itachi and Aiha said to. Makoto flinched at her son's name but was surprised Naruto cared that much to protect them when they had only known each other for a few days. If I can be strong with the red eyes, Naruto said with emotion choking up his throat too as he began to cry. I will lose my blue ones if I can protect you, Miko-chan. She couldn't help but feel warm at his vow to protect her, even if it came from a 7-year-old. Naruto, why would you go so far for us? We have only been together for a few days. How can you feel so strongly about protecting the Uchiha? Naruto looked at her. His sniffling stopped and his voice cleared so she could hear his reason that she still reflected on far into the future. Because the Uchiha gave me a chance. You and Sasuke gave me love. And that is something I will die for to keep intact. Makoto began to cry and hugged her son, thankful that he was so passionate about love, something that had been missing from their family for so long. That was why she wasn't uncomfortable at all when she called Naruto her son. Thank you, Sochikuin. I love you very, very much. Naruto wrapped his tiny arms around her and snuggled into her bosom, crying, I love you too, Ka-chan. He was a bit muffled by her shirt, but Makoto heard it and only hugged him tighter. The Uchiha were for the first time a family. Family with love. Chapter 4. How far we've come. Konohagakure, Uchiha compound. Morning in the Uchiha compound that day was not as quiet as Sasuke was used to as she groaned in bed. Faint voices murmured veiled words through her door. Although she didn't know exactly what the conversation was, she knew the two culprits of it. Naruto and Makoto were in the kitchen, probably eating breakfast together as had become the custom in the house since Naruto was used to waking up in his own time. It didn't take long for the boy to find out when his adoptive mother would wake and he too would follow suit so he could talk to her, be near her. Naruto had been starved of social stimulation since he was born, and he was eager to make up for that lost time. Something of which Makoto happily embraced, as it was the first time she had a helper in the kitchen. When it came down to his cooking skills, he left a lot to be desired, however. As Sasuke remembered, it didn't take long before Makoto stopped his ramen breakfast spree quick. Before the girl could realize it, Naruto was making a breakfast to rival feasts her mother had prepared in the past. Makoto had never been so proud. The same timeline would have happened for Sasuke, but her father made her focus more on schoolwork, and surpassing her brother was already an impossible task that left no room for teaching her how to cook. Geez, their bonding time always wakes me up. Sarcasm dripped as she crawled out of bed with only an oversized t-shirt acting as her cover. Today was the day she, along with the rest of the class, would take their graduation exam. Although they kept the details secret, Sasuke was confident both her and Naruto could pass easily. At least I hope the Baka does. It wouldn't do if when we got married I was Jonin and he was still a Genin. Giggling at the thought, dressing in her usual school look was as quick as it was simple. As always, she wore her high-collar blue shirt with the Uchiha crest stamped proudly on the back. With the shirt taken care of, it was then onward to her tougher choice. A short skirt that came to her mid-thighs or her usual beige shorts. Thinking better of changing the routine for such an uneventful day, Sasuke decided to wear the skirt tomorrow to indicate her fresh start as a genin. Slipping on her blue sandals, Sasuke headed toward the bathroom to check just what her hair had in store for her today. She looked into the mirror to see that other than a few stray hairs, her long and flowing dark blue hair was still in good shape. It wasn't long before she began to play with it, tying it into pigtails before almost vomiting. To redeem herself, she tried a ponytail that her mother sometimes wore but thought that could also be done a later date. The Uchiha settled for her usual look and decided to see what the commotion was all about with those two finally, as they had just about resorted to yelling her name. The halls reverberated her covered feet and told the two in the family room she was on her way. What do you two Sasuke stopped mid-sentence as she saw the two sitting across from each other enjoying their meal, staring at her for her loud interruption. Sorry, I didn't realize you had stopped talking, she mumbled in apology. Makoto beamed at her daughter. All she could see was progress, progress, and progress. Though her daughter had lost some of her more girlish manners as age passed, Makoto was still proud to see that her daughter had not lost her feminine touch. Sasuke-chan, so nice of you to join us. Sasuke glanced at her mother and just gave a HN in response to her prodding. Yeah, well, I bet even if I hadn't come in you two would still be enjoying yourselves. You get along really well. Sasuke looked at Naruto, who had been quietly eating, silently laughing at the situation. TCH, mama's boy. Naruto had the decency to hide his blush with a loud slurp of his soup brought all the way to his face. Makoto giggled at his reaction. It was true he spent most of his time at the compound with her. Not that she minded though. In fact, she quite enjoyed having such a happy face to welcome her home. It was much different than the past, something Makoto did very well at not focusing on anymore. I have enough problems these days to worry about what happened 6 years ago. Makoto took a small sip of green tea to clear her thoughts about the CRA and her stress from maintaining their clan status. Meeting after meeting regarding Uchiha this, Uchiha that, proposal options here, children there. I could make a profession out of denying the elders every turn I got to speak. It's just become so stressful I almost wonder if telling them would do any good. You know, it's almost like you two are the married ones. This time it was Makoto's turn to show a reaction, spitting out her green tea back onto her plate and Naruto. Naruto was about to laugh at Sasuke's joke when he got green tea all over his black shirt and looked to see an embarrassed and blushing Makoto quickly set her cup down and cover her mouth in embarrassment. I'm so sorry, Naruto-kun. Hang on, I'll get a towel. She ran off into the kitchen as the siblings exchanged glances, not understanding her odd reaction. Moms? Weird. I'll have to remember this. Ka-san has a thing for Naruto. The siblings agreed to their thoughts as Makoto ran back in and began to clean Naruto's face and shirt with her towel. It wasn't that much, but enough that it would be uncomfortable to leave, and Naruto would definitely be wearing another shirt today. Hey, Ka-sa. Naruto was cut off as she continued to dab his skin and shirt with the towel vigorously, and he figured she was really taking this badly. Miko-chan, it's fine, I can handle it. Makoto realized she looked a bit too overzealous in her redemption and blushed in embarrassment at just how close her son was to her. No, it's not like that. They don't really know about the engagement, it was just a figure of speech. Why yes. You are right, Naruto, here, take it. Naruto proceeded to take the towel and clean himself off as Sasuke enjoyed her breakfast, thoroughly enjoying the interaction after the conclusion she came to in her thoughts. But leave the shirt when you leave for school. I will clean it for you. Naruto let out a sigh but nodded. The woman would not take no for an answer, so he gave in as usual. He set down the towel and proceeded to take off his t-shirt he had been wearing to bed, decent only thanks to his boxers. Both Uchiha women shook their heads at his nonchalant take on manners, but ignored it as they wanted to escape the strict rules the house had been under in the past. They wanted to lighten up a bit and even take in a little of Naruto's happiness. Except of course they weren't willing to strip down to their undergarments in the house. Regardless, Naruto had greatly influenced their lives, and so far it was for the better. Sasuke and Makoto both had recovered from any sort of long-lasting symptoms of depression that the village doctors had expected. Naruto had also improved both his social and ninja skills since being inducted into the Uchiha, all culminating with the implant of his Sharingan eyes. Okay, Ka-san, I'll go get a new shirt and Sasuke and I can go. We have our big test today. Makoto suddenly remembered as her daughter rolled her eyes. It wasn't as big of a deal as he made of it. That's right, you two will be taking your final step to Genin. I'm so proud. She gushed, already thinking of a way to reward them for how far they had come. It's not that big of a deal, Ka-san. The tests so far have been a joke. They actually figure the jutsus they teach us will be challenging. But Naruto and I learn them the first time we see them without a Sharingan. Makoto laughed at her daughter's expense. Her frustration was nothing less of what was expected of an Uchiha prodigy. Try to be more understanding like your brother Sasuke-chan. He knows how important they are in the future of your ninja career. Naruto shrugged. He didn't think much of the techniques, but if his Ka-san was happy, he was too. Please, Naruto could care less than I do. Suzuki droned, but Makoto dutifully ignored her. Remembering the sad event that befell Naruto 6 years ago that led him to not having a Sharingan, Naruto had yet to take advantage of the ability even once. It was because when he first attempted to use them, he promptly almost fainted from the pain and chakra usage. No single jutsu up until that point had affected Naruto like that, but he knew that it wasn't really chakra exhaustion but his body's difficulty in getting used to the new organs. There was also the fact to consider that no one else, not even his family, realized he had these Sharingan eyes. Mikoto, along with the elders and Hokage, were the only ones who stood in on his operation of Fugaku Uchiha's eyes transferring to his body. While the operation was a success, upon fully linking the eyes to be compatible with the body, the red Sharingan disappeared back into a sky blue, albeit with a slightly darker tint. The elders were outraged and demanded to know what happened, while the medics had no explanation. It seemed as if Naruto's body rejected the eye's dojutsu and shut it off permanently. As Naruto was unconscious for his recovery, it was then he learned exactly why that happened and what he had yet to reveal to his family for their own safety. Flashback. 6 years ago. Naruto's mind. Naruto's head hurt. The last thing remember is holding his mother's hand before the doctors put him to sleep for the operation. The operation that was going to give him red eyes to protect Suzuki and Mikoto. His eyes. Naruto got up quickly and looked around, noticing his new environment was far from a hospital room. It was dank and dark with lots of pipes and a single direction to go, forward. On the ground he saw a puddle and excitedly ran over to look at his eyes, the new ones. It was met with disappointment when his eyes were the same as always, plain blue. What happened? Where were his new eyes? Why was he here, and what exactly happened in the operating room? Fear gripped him as a sudden fear of his new surroundings invaded his mind, allowing the other presence to sense his feelings. I sense your unease. Come forward, boy, and I will explain further. Naruto heard the voice but was scared of it. It was loud and demonic. It felt like it was coming from everywhere, but there was only one place it wanted him to go, toward the end of the hallway. Well, come now, you whelp. Do not try my patience, lest I take back my favor. Figuring it wasn't a good idea to make the thing angry, he ran forward until he was in a big room with a cage on the other end with a seal locking it. What are you? Naruto stood before an awesome beast, the size something he could never fathom at his age. It reminded him of a fox with what he could see. The large orange ears, snout, mischievous smirk, and the swirling tails that Naruto thought looked in infinite number. It grumbled in a mocking tone. Now that the boy was closer, he had to reserve his usual booming voice for a quieter setting. I am Kyubi, the nine-tailed fox that is sealed within you. A tiny human brat that just inherited a dangerous weapon that doesn't belong to you. Naruto gulped as he emphasized Naruto's place on his respect totem pole, quite low. To keep both you and I safe, I created a simple trick of the eyes to make them think you gained no such power. If they think you weak as you grow older and stronger, you will be able to reveal to them your true power as you strike at their hearts with fire, blade, and fear. From that, Naruto understood that Kyubi had done something to make his eyes seem unaffected, when really he did have the red eyes. So that means I really do have. Naruto quieted down as he began to feel his eyes with the newfound information, practically jumping with relief. Yes, you simpleton, you still have the Sharingan of the Uchiha. He said the name as if it was dirt under his foot, making Naruto a little angry. How dare he treat his family's name like that? Kyubi sensed the change in reaction and laughed in the boy's face. Please, you really think you are a true Uchiha? You have the name, the crest, even now you have their eyes. But what you don't have is their fiery hatred, the will to conquer. If I could have influenced that in your early stages, I would have, but it seemed as though your parents were thorough in your control over me. Honestly, I'm surprised I was able to do such a simple trick as hide your eyes. The blonde gasped at mention of his real parents. No one had told him anything of them. Then again, he never thought to ask any more that he was living with the Uchiha. You knew my parents? Kyubi eyed the boy, his mocking smirk gone replaced with an annoyed scowl. That is a tale that will come in time, boy. He said simply but realized he made it sound like these talks would be often and quickly rectified his words. But only I deign to decide when to speak to you, not the other way around. If I must be stuck in you, then it is my sad fate I will have to help you survive with my power, however, on my own terms. Your power? Kyubi scowled. The boy knew nothing of what he held within. For now my chakra will grant you healing in addition to keeping up the facade you have your normal eyes. Reveal the Sharingan to no one until you are ready to live with the consequences. What consequences? Naruto didn't like the sound of that. Kyubi glared at him and then shook his head in annoyance. The consequence of being a strong shinobi. Present time. Naruto had begun to wrap his head around what Kyubi said when he was younger. Now that he had a grasp of a ninja's life, strong shinobi were historically hunted and fought over for their power. Of course they kept their own will and often ended fighting both sides of the tug of war, but one could not make their life like that. That was what led the Senju and Uchiha together into Konoha's founding. They could no longer take the tug of war that forced their clans to go against one another by villages and countries. Naruto would use his Sharingan to protect his important people. That was all that mattered to him in the end anyway. He would go all out to protect the two girls in front of him, no matter if it cost him his life. I'll die to keep that love intact. Naruto? Are you okay? You spaced out for a moment. Makoto looked at him worriedly as he just stood in the doorway looking at them with a blank stare. He shook his head clear and waved off to the two. Yeah, just got lost for a moment there and thought, I'll go change. Makoto and Suzuki glanced at each other and shrugged it off. Naruto still took some figuring out. Ka-san, what will you be doing during school today? Suzuki asked, which surprised Makoto. Generally, the girl had just accepted that Makoto was quite busy with meetings and such. I have another meeting with the elders to review your, engagement with Naruto. Suzuki's eyes widened and she blushed from the reminder, uncharacteristic of her usual stoic behavior. I might also get some information about which squad you're in and who your sensei will be. She hoped to arouse her daughter's interests but received nothing but a glance. She is still trying to keep her thoughts off the subject. She is nervous they won't be on a team together because of their place in the class. Naruto was ranked second to Suzuki amongst the other class of around 20 other academy students, making it seem as if the two would be spread amongst two teams to keep the skill level high. However, Makoto had a good feeling that the two would be together for numerous reasons, one amongst them mother instinct. And the elders would jump at the chance to have them be close at all times, at the very least if the two end up having a child earlier than scheduled. Not that Makoto thought that either would do so, but they would enjoy each other's company in comparison to the rest of the class. All right, Naruto yelled in a rambunctious voice as he opened the door with a new black Uchiha collar shirt and a big smile. You ready to go, Suki-chan? A bowl of half-eaten rice was his answer as the annoyed girl walked past him and toward the front door. What did I tell you about the name? It was his pet name for her, like Miko-chan. But Suzuki was embarrassed by it and tried to make him stop. Secretly, he knew she loved it as he saw her blush many a time when they were alone, but he often did it just to tease her. He quickly began to pick up the rice so he could catch up, but a soft hand grabbed his, making him stop and look to see his smiling mother. Go on, Naruto. I don't want you late for school. My meeting doesn't start for a while anyway. Naruto looked unsure, but with an embarrassing peck on his cheek, the blonde ran out of the house to catch up with his annoyed sister. Makoto laughed as she picked up the food. He was too easy to tease. Konohagakure, Ninja Academy. The two Uchiha made it on time, surprising with how much time they wasted at home. As they entered the schoolyard, a combination of Suzuki's presence and the Uchiha crest brought eyes toward them. The rumor mill began to spin as it did every day as Naruto and Suzuki walked closely with one another, practically holding hands. It wasn't that there was some rules they couldn't reveal their relationship to the other kids or anything. They were just still embarrassed. The explaining that both didn't want to do along with obvious comments made about them afterward were most easily kept at bay by keeping a certain distance from one another until they were ready. Nonetheless, it didn't stop the word from spreading. Uchiha Suzuki and Naruto. They awfully look close for brother and sister. Why didn't they tell anyone they were related? I had to find out from my two-san. Almost looks like they're going out. She is way too good for him. I wish I was Naruto, he doesn't deserve that. Suzuki is so amazing. Too bad her image is wrecked when the blonde stays so close by. Naruto's Uchiha name didn't stop people from despising him, it just gave them more varied reasons. Whether it be from jealousy, hatred of the Nine Tails, or even envy of skills or stature, Naruto was still a target. He didn't mind it so much as he grew up with it half of his life. Sasuke, on the other hand, still got annoyed. "You shouldn't have to take that, Naruto," she mumbled, wondering if he could even hear her as they entered the classroom away from most of the kids. "It's okay, Sasuke." Naruto wrapped an arm around her shoulders and brought her in for a hug, making her blush as a few other seated kids saw. "As long as I have you and Kasan, I don't care what they say." Sasuke didn't push him away like she used to. Instead, she liked this warm feeling inside her when they were close. Naruto was waiting for her to get angry and push him away, but instead she leaned in closer and gave a happy sigh as she closed her eyes dreamily. "I guess so. Baka." Naruto blushed as they parted a bit to sit down in their chairs, next to one another in the far-off left corner of the class, mostly just to discourage kids from coming close to them. Sasuke got out of her daze as Naruto's arm left her to sit down, and she quickly assumed her usual position, eyes front and hands interlaced, giving her a bored look. This suited her because it kept boys away and let the teacher know she was still paying attention, even when she wasn't. "All right, class, get seated." Irika and Mizuki entered, both with clipboards that would no doubt be used for their final test grading. The kids scrambled to find their seats. A few boys glanced over at the Uchiha to see Naruto's impenetrable defense of Sasuke still remained. She sat on the far chair with the wall right next to her, and he took the middle, preventing anyone else from sitting by her. The worst part was she never gave any thought or sympathy to them when they wanted to sit by her, instead allowing her brother to do as he pleased. A few girls did in fact like Naruto, but were too scared Sasuke would do something or too nervous to do anything about it. They also figured out along with the boys that whether they were siblings or not, the two did not seem interested in anything else other than each other whenever they were seen. Irika surveyed the class to ensure they were all quiet and listening, landing on the Uchiha pair with a small smirk. The two were sure to ace the test with their grades, and it would be his honor to pass them after the hard work they put in, no matter how much they acted like it was just simple chores. "I don't know what kind of training Makoto Uchiha-sama does to them to make them so at ease with our training regimen, but it definitely shows. They have no one even close to their scores in academics or ninja training. In all honesty, they could have graduated early, but the Hokage requested they stay in for the full run along with permission from Makoto. Whatever reason they wanted them to stay with the class was beyond Irika, but there were admittedly few who could be a match for them as a teammate. Today we will finish the 3-part graduation exam as we finished taking the written exam on Monday, the ninja tool exercise yesterday, and now for your jutsu test today. Those who pass with overall acceptable scores and perform to at least a 70% in each category will be allowed to move on and graduate from the academy." The usual excited murmurs came up and Irika waved them off as he indicated a door near the chalkboard. "The test will take place in there where Mizuki and I will test you on the Bunshin Jutsu." Mizuki just finished writing the order of students to come up on the chalkboard as the two prepared to depart. "Please follow the order Mizuki-sensei has written on the board. First student Shino Aburame, please come with us to the testing area." Shino felt eyes on him as he slowly got up and followed the teachers into the room, leaving the rest to their thoughts. The usual glances made no surprise to the Uchiha as they waited patiently. Naruto emulated Sasuke's serious pose in an attempt to annoy her, and he realized it was working as she sent him a glare. "Idiot. You know why I try and look serious all the time." Naruto smiled and brought his arm around her again to tease her, making all eyes tune to the area immediately. "Of course, Sasuke-chan, but I don't like you being serious all the time. I like seeing you smile too." She blushed and allowed him to pull her closer for a hug. The moment ended when they both felt they weren't alone. Naruto looked behind him to see a boy from their class, Hibachi, standing in the aisle with crossed arms and an annoyed but cocky look on his face. The only way they remembered who he was because of two things, his bandana and the fact that he didn't like Naruto because he was always with Sasuke. To her, he was nothing. To him, it was his ticket to popularity to date her and become the next boy Uchiha. Naruto was always in his way though, and when he saw her smile when he put his arm around her, Hibachi decided now was the time to make a move while the teachers were out. "Hey you, back off her." he said with a tough guy voice but failed when Naruto and Sasuke heard him squeak as the Uchiha turned to glare at him. She's my family, you don't have a say in what we do. Sasuke liked the way Naruto spoke with an edge to his voice, especially since he was defending her. Why yeah, well she didn't look too happy about it. Hibachi defended with a stutter, feeling the class begin to snicker behind his back. What do you want? Sasuke asked with an attitude. He was annoying her when she was about to get closer to Naruto during class. Sasuke-san, I think that since we're both gonna be genin soon and that means we both will be strong, it's time I ask you out on a date. Drop this loser of a brother. Naruto's glare intensified as he paused before continuing in a mumble. And go out with me. Sasuke wanted to roll her eyes. If the guy thought she would pity him, he was very wrong. Whether he knew it or not, Sasuke was taken, and she didn't even know the kid to begin with, so she decided to let Naruto handle it. Naruto-kun, get rid of him for me. Naruto smirked, never taking his eyes off of Hibachi as he stood up and cracked his knuckles. You got it, Tsuki-chan. Any requests? The class fell deathly silent as Hibachi began to shake in fear. They were being serious, weren't they? He got rejected and he was gonna get beat up in the same day? Not if he had anything to say about it. I am not afraid of YU. He took a basic stance of defense as Sasuke's deadly smirk unnerved him as she gave Naruto one rule. No blood on me. Naruto took a step forward, making the boy flinch. He took a long stride, so he was now crouching low under Hibachi's body and sent a single uppercut right into his jaw. The boy felt pain as he momentarily was lifted off the ground and then sent flying across a desk when Naruto kicked him in the stomach. He landed on the other side of the room and, trying his best to nurse his pride, dragged himself back to his seat as Naruto returned to his spot with Sasuke. Nice, Naruto. But the kick was a little too much for him, I think. Naruto scratched the back of his head, displaying a carefree smile, weirding some out after he showed such an evil smirk before. Sorry. Guess I forgot my own strength. Sasuke just shook her head in disbelief and returned to her world of boredom until they were called in. It was obvious of their outcome, though, to everyone in the school. The Uchiha had passed their final test. Konohagakure, Hokage's mansion, office. And so you still remember the terms to our agreement, Uchiha Dano? The elders and Hokage were once again with Makoto in a meeting, basically to review on their past agreements. Yes, elders. She sighed in exasperation. The amount of times they asked that over the past few years, and they still thought she would conveniently forget. I know the terms of the CRA. Sasuke must have a child by 16 and myself by Naruto's age of 18. The elders nodded and was glad she remembered. A shame that boy did not take to the transplant. The Sharingan could have strengthened him further. Makoto was actually somewhat happy compared to their disappointment. It meant Naruto would still be normal. A set of Sharingan eyes were not exactly subtle, especially to his classmates. If the transplant had worked, she would have definitely encouraged Naruto to hide them to keep his strength secret. But thoughts of it didn't matter much as they were past that opportunity. Moving on. I'm sure Makoto Dano would appreciate a break from the usual questioning you two give her. The Hokage stepped in after the silence, ignoring the glares sent by his teammates. It came to my attention that you wanted to see the finalized list of teams, is that correct? Makoto nodded. She was quite anxious to see exactly who her children ended up with, although she was surely not going to be surprised after the amount of recommendations she gave the Hokage. Truthfully, there was only one Jonin who had the qualifications to push them to their limits and further train Sasuke's dojutsu. Hatake Kakashi. As you requested and I supported, Jonin Hatake Kakashi has been appointed to lead Team 7. The squad consists of Sasuke, Naruto, and Shino Aburame. Makoto thought over the Aburame boy. She didn't suggest him, but it wasn't a bad choice. Her children excelled in ninjutsu and taijutsu. Combine the offensive power with the Aburame's brains and hidden clan jutsu, and they would make a deadly combination. A hybrid of tracking and offense, a kill team is what she likened it to. The Aburame? Odd choice, Hiruzen. Koharu muttered as she tried to figure out the Hokage's choice in the third member. Hiruzen merely shrugged and gave a who-knows smile. They could get along very well together, as I see particular links in their personalities, as well as having a good combination of skills that will make them a lethal force as they grow. Under Kakashi's tutelage, I have no doubt they will be the strongest, if not most successful team Konoha produces for many years to come. Makoto was glad to hear his praise of her children, sensing no deception in his words, as she often found with the empty compliments of the elders. She almost preferred Danzo. At least he told her straight up they hated each other, better than doing it behind her back. Konohagakure, streets, sunset. Naruto had taken Suzuki on their first official date to celebrate graduation. In reality, it was just a fun little lunch they had together after they got out of school. The two really felt their awkwardness disappear as they just spent time together eating out at the small restaurant together without parental supervision and the feeling of being suddenly a lot older than they really were. The reactions from the populace who saw them together was relatively positive. Many of the younger townsfolk saw them as a cute couple, and younger boys and girls swooned in jealousy of their pair. Even then, some ninja and older civilians who remembered the attack clearly still saw Naruto as the Ninetales and refused to acknowledge the heiress would choose such a thing to be with. Naruto was walking along with Suzuki, who had her hands hidden in her pockets and her hair swaying behind her as they made their way home. Naruto was just looking up at the sky with an odd, thoughtful face as they walked along, and Suzuki was somewhat annoyed that he was paying more attention to the sky than her. They had just gotten off their first date, as much as he didn't consider it one, and now he wouldn't even hold her hand home. She took a daring glance at his as it hung limply at his sides, swaying back and forth a bit with each step. A blush crept over her face as she took her right hand out of her pocket and made for a grab. I don't really know why, but I just don't care what people say when they see us holding hands. I just want him to hold me a little closer. Just before she could grab his hand and take it in hers, he stopped walking, making her just brush against it. Naruto looked into the sky again as he didn't even notice Suzuki's actions. His instincts had been right. There was something very wrong. Bathed in a sheen of orange and with a bit of glare, Mizuki was very difficult for Naruto to see off in the distance, but the boy could see the large scroll on his back. It seemed like their teacher was making a late withdrawal from the Hokage mansion, and no one was trying to stop him. Naruto. What's the matter? Suzuki was getting a bit worried as well as annoyed. He rarely acted like this, and it was scaring her. Naruto looked at her for what felt like the first time since they left their date spot, and she could easily tell his fake smile from his real one. Naruto didn't want to freak her out and decided he would investigate alone. It was probably nothing anyway. It's nothing. I just remembered something I had to get. Go on ahead and welcome Ka-san. Tell her I'll give her a back rub when I get back. Suzuki was confused and angry as he jumped away into the lowering sun as night began to fall. Why did Naruto show her his fake smile? He hasn't done that since we were little. He would give that smile when they would walk the streets and people would glare at him. She would ask and he would just smile and shrug it off. With age, Suzuki could tell hate from the look, but Naruto still would not admit to anything. Makoto acted as if there was nothing to talk about, but she sensed the two knew more than they let on. I'm not letting you do whatever you're doing alone, Naruto. Suzuki jumped off after him, hoping she could catch up in time. Konohagakure outskirts, abandoned shed. Mizuki landed with ease at his hideout and with an unbridled smirk unstrapped the large scroll on his back. His plunder was too easy to get as the guards had become lax at the end of the day, allowing him to sneak into the archives without much fuss. He wondered if he could risk a peek to learn a technique or two for himself, of course to strengthen his bond with his soon-to-be leader, Orochimaru. This was his key for power, but both opportunities offered something great of value. His thoughts of grandeur were cut off when he sensed a new presence and turned to see the Uchiha. It seemed as if the kid was really following him after all. He had hoped it was just nerves, but the blonde was as good as they say, and the kid deserved praise. That was if Mizuki really cared about being his teacher, which he obviously didn't. With the Ninetales in his grasp, he could kill or capture him to further Orochimaru's power. Everything seemed to be going his way today. Mizuki's sickening smirk seemed to confirm what Naruto feared, as it seemed the teacher had cracked, either becoming a traitor or going insane for power. Either way, there was no way he was supposed to have the scroll of sealing, and it was Naruto's duty as a genin of Konoha to stop him. That was what he had earned. The headband for that now was worn proudly on his forehead. Ah! So the Kyuubi brat decides to be the village hero and show up? Naruto stiffened. That was the first time anyone had directly referred to him in relation with Kyuubi. Even though he knew the beast was inside him, it didn't make things any easier on him to hear that. Unfortunately, Mizuki noticed the change in stance and decided to press the wound. Oh? Surprised I know that Naruto? Everyone knows. Your friends, your teachers, the ninja who pretend to protect you, even the Hokage. And they all hate you for it. His venom seeped into Naruto's veins and he felt on fire with anger and fear. Was that really why he felt so separated? Could people hate him so much that they would exile him to a life of solitude even as a child? The answer became all too clear to him as Naruto brought a hand to his face, now embattled with his own inner conflict. Mizuki stalked forward as he was ready to point the dagger at the boy's heart. The Uchiha. Did you think Makoto-san didn't know? Of course she knew. The Uchiha died to Kyuubi just as well as any other ninja and they hated you for it too. Even now she took you in because she pitied you. Maybe she planned to kill you but developed some sick sense of humor in keeping you as her pet. Naruto sunk to his knees. This was too much for him to think about. Stop it. Stop it, please. Mizuki undid the strap on his large shuriken attached to his back and began to work it into a spin as he still approached with that sickening smirk. And don't even get me started on your precious sister Suzuki. She'll throw you away faster than I can throw it. Stop it. Or what, Kyuubi boy? Let's see you stop this. Mizuki let loose the shuriken, tired of his game as he realized the boy was already broken. He sobbed on the ground and did not make to avoid the shuriken. Naruto, snap out of it. He looked up to see Suzuki holding the shuriken in place, one hand in the center wheel, while the other rested comfortably on one of the blades. His sister had stopped the killing blow to the Kyuubi boy. Why did she? Naruto then saw her stiffen up a bit and grunt in pain. Both hands were laced with blood as it trickled down her fingers to the ground. She had caught the shuriken initially with her hands on the blades due to a bad angle in her positioning, but it was the only way she could see in saving Naruto. She had heard all of what Mizuki said, even the part describing Naruto as Kyuubi. There were a few things she didn't understand still, like how Naruto had Kyuubi inside him and what that meant for him. But she did know that what he was saying about her and Makoto wasn't true. They loved Naruto no matter who or what he was. They were family and that was tighter than any other bond. Suzuki. Why? She heard him croak out the question in mid-sob. I'm the keeper of a monster. I don't deserve this. Suzuki frowned. He was so vulnerable right now after Mizuki's barrage. She would think it cute if the situation was different. Naruto. He looked at her and saw her flashing him a confident smile, very rare of Suzuki to do. The last time she did that was when Naruto mastered the fireball technique at the pier. That was the day he had become a true Uchiha. Makoto and Suzuki were so proud, and he had never felt closer to them afterward. Now it seemed that smile was his salvation in the face of defeat. That's what brothers and sisters are supposed to do, because we're family. Naruto couldn't believe she said that. It reminded him of the past times she had said the same thing. Mizuki just stood there, annoyed at how she brought him back from the brink with just a few words. Besides, she turned back to glare at Mizuki, signaling their fight was back on. If my baka of a fiancé goes and gets himself killed, who will I marry then? Damn brat. Is that all you can do is talk? Suzuki smirked and readied the shuriken to throw back at him with just as much ferocity as when it was first used. You should know, sensei. You tested me after all. Chapter 5. Our bonds are stronger. Kanahagakure outskirts. Abandoned shed. Mizuki glared at Suzuki. Who was she to speak so high and mighty to him? An instructor at Konoha Academy? A Chunin ninja and one of Orochimaru's future chosen? It was blasphemy. He would teach her a lesson for getting in his way with the demon brat. The fight would have to be quick though. No doubt the village was on alert by now with the stolen scroll. Suzuki stood in front of the prone Naruto in a defensive position in case the man tried to get at him again. She didn't know what his angle was attacking Naruto's emotions like that, but he would pay for it. There was no way this man, not even a Chunin of the Leaf, could beat an Uchiha prodigy like her, or Naruto for that matter. It would be over quick and the two could go back to the village as heroes. Naruto didn't know what to do. He willed his body to move to stand with Suzuki, but it wouldn't. Damn these feelings. I can't move. I'm leaving right now. This is your chance to step back and forget you saw me. Take it. Or don't. Mizuki threatened, hoping to scare them. It only served to anger Suzuki further. How dare you say that after what you did to Naruto? I won't let you get away for that, Suzuki exclaimed, getting into a battle-ready stance. Mizuki gritted his teeth. It seemed as though he wasn't going to talk his way out of this one. He readied another giant shuriken and gripped it tightly in his left hand. He made a sudden dash forward toward the two Uchiha and made the shuriken spin into a mighty whirlwind, increasing its piercing strength. Suzuki brought her own shuriken up to defend against his diagonal slash but was shocked to see the weapon break under pressure. She rolled out of the way but was quickly forced back on the defensive as Mizuki threw the large shuriken at her, forcing her to jump backward toward the shed. Mizuki knew that would be too easy for the girl to dodge, so he grabbed a few more small shuriken from his pack and launched them at the spot where the girl would land. That should be enough to keep her occupied. A sudden new presence forced him to look toward the trees as he noticed the green of a Konoha flak vest and knew that he had been caught. Damn! Mizuki leaped backward and threw a kunai at Naruto. It wasn't clear whether he wanted to wound Naruto or to keep the new arrival distracted. Naruto watched as if in slow motion as the kunai flew toward him. A piece of paper whistled in the wind as it was strung to the kunai. An explosive tag. He thought absently, not realizing just how dangerous the weapon was. His eyes widened as it got closer and a bright white light blinded him and forced his eyes shut. A scream echoed through the trees as night fell on the forest. Naruto quickly opened his eyes to see that he was indeed alive. The attack intended for him had missed its mark. The result was obvious though. A small crater was still smoldering a few feet away from him. Foreign hands were over his head and a larger body was covering his own in protection. Irika checked Naruto with his own eyes to see that the boy was all right, if not a bit shell-shocked from the blast. At the last moment, Irika had landed next to Naruto and deflected the weapon into an angled arc, making it hit the ground away from them as he pushed Naruto the ground. While there wasn't much time to pay attention, he did remember a scream as the blast went off and quickly checked his surroundings. What he saw made him gasp in terror. Suzuki was up against the shed's wall. A few shurikens surrounded her on the ground. Those were the ones she had time to deflect. The large shuriken had embedded itself in the wall, keeping one of her arms pinned between two of its blades but otherwise not harming her. Two more smaller shuriken had dug their teeth into her opposite shoulder and leg, immobilizing her. The scream was a combination of pain that she had not experienced before and seeing the hostile weapon get close to Naruto. As Suzuki looked at the scene in front of her now, a flood of relief washed over her seeing Naruto alive and well. Irika quickly ran over to her and removed the large shuriken from the wall, sending splinters out toward the man and the ground. The next two were tricky as he did not want to harm the Uchiha and his student, but he knew that it wasn't good to leave them in or they would only further wound her with movement. Hang on, Suzuki-san. I'm going to remove the shuriken. It will hurt. Suzuki just glared at him, and he quickly began as Naruto picked himself up and ran over to join his teacher and sister. Groans ensued as the two bloody weapons were removed and thrown to the ground, leaving Suzuki bleeding and Naruto even worse off than before. It was his fault she had those wounds and a sense of guilt and anger festered inside of him. His body had been in shock and wouldn't move, but it was his fault he did not snap out of the fugue sooner to stop Mizuki that his sister and love was hurt. He couldn't take back what had happened, but he could get revenge. Right now, Mizuki got away. Suzuki grunted, looking in the direction he took off. Irika looked at the girl, amazed she was still in the mood to fight with her challenging tone. With her wounds though, she would only hinder herself in battle and make them worse. Reinforcements could be alerted at the village once he took her to the hospital, but they wouldn't find him in time. It looked like he would have to send Naruto with Suzuki while he pursued his former friend. Alone, Irika was once again cut off as the boy looked at him with what he could only tell was a look of revenge. Sensei, please take my sister to the hospital. I will pursue Mizuki and retrieve the scroll of sealing. Naruto looked at Suzuki and saw concern in her eyes even if she was the one wounded. But Naruto, you can't take him on alone. You aren't in the condition to. Naruto gave her a knowing look and she quieted down. Something in his eyes told her to calm down, to trust him, so she obeyed. It's my fault you got hurt, Suzuki. You had to protect me while I couldn't do anything to save you. Now I have to finish what I started. Stop Mizuki. And make him pay for hurting you. Suzuki blushed as Irika almost fell over at the sudden turn of events. What happened to a simple situation? Naruto, you don't have the skill level required to fight Mizuki. He's a chunin and you are just barely a genin graduate from the academy. I know him personally and all of his skills, plus my judgment isn't clouded with revenge. Naruto glared at his sensei. He was right, but that didn't stop him from knowing he had to take that guy down. I'm sorry, sensei, but I'm the one that caught up to Mizuki first. I started this and I'm gonna finish it too. We don't have time to argue and my sister needs treatment. I'll be back soon. Naruto leaped off into the trees with Irika and Suzuki watching him leave, powerless to stop him. Hey Naru dash, the boy was already gone, so Irika resorted to shouting his last order. All right, but I'm on my way back as soon as I drop Suzuki off. He looked back at the girl and knelt down, offering his shoulder. Suzuki looped her unwounded arm over his back and felt him grab her around the waist to support her. Her brother was going off to get revenge and she was forced to head back to the village. Naruto might not be able to forgive himself for what happened to her, but it would be the same if he got hurt or killed going off because of Suzuki's wounds. With no way of being there with him physically, Suzuki settled for a prayer as they began their trek to the village. Stay safe, Naruto. Kanahagakure. Makoto was still inside the compound, going over some papers when she felt someone coming. The pounding at the gate let her know the guest had arrived, and she quickly went to see what they could want at such a late hour. Her children were still not home, but she wasn't too concerned as they were most likely with one another wherever they were. Arriving at the gate, Makoto opened it to find a chunin heavily breathing from jumping around place to place. It was his job to get the word out about the missing scroll and recruit ninja to help search for it. He had no idea about the missing Uchiha children and what he was in store for in the Uchiha compound. All he knew was the Hokage's order and that the Uchiha were quite capable ninja. From the ones that were left, that was, yes, what is it? Makoto didn't know the young man's name in particular but stayed polite. It had to be urgent if they were coming at this odd hour. A slight moment of fear crept over her thinking of the children, but she brushed it aside. Uchiha-san, the Hokage has put out a general alert within the village. The scroll of sealing has been stolen and we need help tracking down the one who took it. The guards along the wall have not said of anyone trying to escape, so we figure he's still within the village somewhere. Would you please help us search? Makoto was shocked such an important artifact could be stolen right from under the Hokage but knew the gravity of the situation. If those jutsu got out, it would make the world a lot more dangerous than it already was. Yes, I will begin searching as soon as I get in proper dress. Please excuse me. The chunin nodded and jumped off into the night to alert others, while Makoto headed back to her home to change. Her usual attire was of her apron with a shirt and pants underneath. Nothing special. It had been a while since Makoto had worn her ninja gear, but this situation she felt required it. Besides, she was a jounin of the village and should every once in a while remind herself and everyone else of the fact. Within her bedroom was where she kept her old ninja gear, where she had left it the day she retired to take care of Suzuki. Makoto undressed herself down to her black panties and quickly grabbed her black tank top, a tight sleeveless with the Uchiha fan on the back. Next, she put on the standard jounin flak vest. It completely covered the top underneath, but let her cleavage breathe as she unzipped it a bit. Her pants were a standard affair, dark blue with a pair of sandals to complete the outfit. Any ninja tool she needed was already packed in her hip pouch and Makoto was ready to go. She left the gate closed behind her as she began to jump across the village, searching for anything suspicious. In the back of her mind, she was also keeping her eye out for Suzuki and Naruto. Those two weren't as disciplined as the older ninja, but they could still help search. Without much to go on their suspect, though, Makoto had no idea where to look or who she was looking for. Well, if I had to guess, they probably aren't in town anymore. The other jounin would have searched there already and it would be too obvious. The scroll must be in the forest somewhere. Makoto stopped on a rooftop to take in her surroundings before she would move on. Around her, blurs in the night could be seen as shinobi desperately searched for the thief. Even in the darkness of Konoha, Makoto could make out the lavender eyes of Hyuga search parties using their infamous Byakugan Kekiai Genkai. With them on the search, it surely wouldn't take much longer, and once she saw the Ino Shikacho senior group running through the village, she realized how serious the situation was to everyone. No sense standing around. Makoto leaped off again in search of the culprit but felt a certain amount of hopelessness in her search. What made her have any better chance of finding him than a Hyuga? A blast of wind made her hair whip back as an ANBU squad landed on the rooftop she was on. They ran past her to their next destination, not paying her too much mind. The squad leader just gave the clan head a courteous nod before she leaped off after her squad. "Sorry, Uchiha-sama," were her parting words in startling Makoto when they arrived. She cursed herself, getting jumpy over something so simple. Makoto moved again, this time closer to the center of the city where the Hokage mansion was. Maybe the culprit had come back to survey their crime? That was what Fugaku had told her was one of the most common mistakes a criminal made. Instead of seeing a criminal, though, she saw what she never wanted to see. Suzuki was on the back of a Chunin. She knew him as Irika. He was their homeroom teacher and had just recently approved their graduation to genin. While this fact alone worried her, even from their distance of a dozen buildings or so she could make out some cuts or wounds on her daughter. This made her act on reflex and move to check on her herself as the mother. "Suzuki!" Irika touched down and saw an incoming figure. To his surprise, it was the girl's mother and head of the Uchiha clan, and she looked like she was about to kill something. Suzuki looked up from Irika's shoulder to see who called her name. Instantaneously, she was surprised to see her mother coming toward her. Irika let her down and allowed the wounded girl to go to her mother's arms where she belonged. The Chunin smiled for a moment as the two met and embraced. That was one good ending to the night. "Oh, Suzuki. I thought the worst when I saw you on Irika's back." Makoto rubbed her daughter's back and desperately held on, afraid she would lose her if she let go. Suzuki was glad her mother was concerned, but she was losing feeling in her body from her mother squeezing along with pain from the wounds. "Mother, if you keep squeezing me, it might make these worse." Makoto realized she was speaking of her wounds and immediately backed off with a layer of concern touching her. Her eyes widened at the latest realization. "Where is Naruto? Where is my son? Where is Naruto?" Suzuki looked depressed for a moment and hesitated in answering, making Makoto's fears go wild in her mind. Irika was quick to jump in. "He pursued Mizuki, Makoto-sama. He is the thief of the scroll of sealing and the one who did this to your daughter. I wasn't able to stop him, so I decided to bring Suzuki back to the hospital and go after him once I was done." Makoto took a deep breath and processed the information. It was better than what she had first thought. "Irika, please go and bring Naruto to me. I know my children are ninja now, but we both know that there are opponents that they just can't handle. I almost lost Suzuki and I don't want to lose Naruto over a scroll." Irika nodded and took one last concerned look at Suzuki. The girl seemed to have trouble with her wounds still untreated. Makoto read his thoughts and allayed them. "Don't worry. I will be taking my daughter to the hospital right after this. You can bring Naruto there when you get him, and then I will have a stern talk for both of you." She left the sentence on a hard note as she looked at Suzuki, who could only look to the ground in embarrassment. Irika sent a sympathetic smile her way before leaping off the building toward the forest to find Naruto. It hadn't been too long since they had separated, so Irika was hopeful that he could find them both in time. If he didn't, well, he didn't want to know how Makoto would react to such news. Naruto may not have been seen as an Uchiha by most of the populace, but Makoto acted like he was her flesh and blood. Makoto watched him leave before getting her daughter situated on her back, as it seemed her leg wasn't good enough to jump on anymore. "Hang on, Suzuki, we're going." The woman felt her daughter nod into her back as her arms looped around her neck. Makoto began to make her way to the hospital, albeit at a slower pace now. There were many questions she wanted to ask but knew better than to make her daughter feel even worse. "What were you two doing before you decided to chase after Mizuki?" she suddenly asked, not so sure she herself knew why. Suzuki thought back to earlier that day, after they had chosen their headbands and been told they had passed their exam. "Naruto chose black and I chose blue. Everyone looked so jealous of how good we looked together. We went on a date to celebrate graduating." She added the last part as an afterthought to comfort her mother because she jumped at the word of date. Makoto was surprised they were moving that fast in their relationship. She still thought of them as children playing at the thought of being together. Then again, Makoto had no real grasp on real relationships. She and Fugaku had been promised to each other at a later age, and were producing heirs when they should have been dating and having fun. Either way, she was happy that they were getting along so well. I see. How was he? Suzuki recognized the tenderness in her mother's voice, something she only heard when she was interested or approved of something with a smile. That was when she knew her mother was smiling, and she began to smile too. He was wonderful, Ka-san. Everything I wanted him to be when I dreamed about the future when we were young. But I was kind of disappointed at the end of it. Makoto felt her daughter frown and wondered what happened. What? Did he do something wrong? Suzuki just shook her head. I wanted to hold hands, but then he saw Mizuki and started this whole mess. I guess I was being selfish to want to hold his hand in front of everybody. Makoto actually felt like laughing but kept it in. Oh, don't worry, Suki-chan. There will be plenty of chances in the future to hold his hand, especially in front of everyone in Konoha. Her daughter calmed at that, and it wasn't long before they arrived at the hospital. The doctors and nurses were taken a bit by surprise, but quickly set the Uchiha up with their own medical suite and began to heal Suzuki immediately. While her injuries were somewhat serious, they were nowhere near life-threatening, and it wasn't long before the girl was better than before. Makoto insisted she rest a while since they had to wait for Naruto arrive anyway. Makoto stared out the window of their room, tapping lightly on the wall as she waited for any sign of their arrival. Her tapping steadily increased as her stress grew. This was no laughing matter to her. Naruto was as loved in the Uchiha household as any pureblood, son or daughter, tailed beast or no. To have him out of her sight, in danger, was a difficult feeling to grasp. She knew she would have to get used to the fact he was a ninja now. Missions to far-off nations and even wars to fight in were not outside of his grasp anymore, and they were something he would have to face alone. No. She corrected herself with a glance to Suzuki. They will face them together. A light knock on the door made both Uchiha turn to see the Hokage enter with a few ANBU. Makoto tensed on reflex but relaxed as the old man smiled and walked up to her, grasping her shoulder in comfort as the ANBU took up defensive positions at the door. I heard what happened from a messenger Irika ran into on his way to Naruto. I thought it best to wait here for his victorious return, so I could congratulate and reward him for his job well done. Makoto smiled at his thoughtfulness but then had a quizzical look. Reward him? Hiruzen turned to see Suzuki weakly stare at him, trying her best to stay awake for when Naruto would return. He walked over and gently took her hand in his, giving her a slight grip to keep her awake. Thank you for what you did as well, Suzuki-chan. If it wasn't for you, Naruto would never have gotten over his insecurities of being a Jinchuriki, nor would he have become a strong ninja like his parents. You are in my debt for taking care of him, as are you, Makoto. He looked back at the mother and saw her confused look, which he sought to fix. You see, Makoto, there are a few things about Naruto and his past that you should know. Or if you haven't already guessed them, allow me to confirm them. To start with, and then Hiruzen enlightened the two Uchiha on Naruto's real past, just who was behind the making of what could be someday the strongest ninja in Konoha. At the end of it, their eyes felt more open than before and their respect and love for Naruto only grew. Hiruzen told them of how he would handle telling Naruto of his heritage, letting him know a piece now and then the whole story upon his promotion to Chunin. When they were all in agreement over what would be said, there was only one thing left to do: wait. Konohagakure, forest. It didn't take long for Naruto to catch the rat, and Mizuki knew that the confrontation would be unavoidable at this point. His only hope was that it wouldn't delay him too much from his goal of escaping with the scroll to give to his master, Orochimaru. The man wasn't known for patience, and he was already behind schedule as it was. A squad of sound ninja were waiting outside to escort him safely, but if he delayed too long, they would leave without him. That was something he could not allow, especially if it was caused by the demon brat. Naruto knew the man wouldn't stop willingly, so he decided to take matters into his own hands. He grabbed a few shuriken and threw them right at the man, forcing him to adopt an erratic pattern of jumping to avoid being hit. This caused him to slow down considerably and let the blonde catch up where he was finally in range for jutsu. Mizuki sensed the boy's presence and turned around only to have a wire wrap around his wrist and hold him in place. He looked up to see Naruto on a higher tree branch, the wire in his mouth as he went through a few hand signs. This made the Chunin fearful of the wire and quickly grabbed a kunai to slice through it. It was to his horror that he realized the wire was tougher than he thought and the kunai did nothing but tighten its grip. Time to show you what I learned from Kasan's jutsu library. Fire shot from Naruto's mouth down the wire and engulfed Mizuki's clothed arm and set him on fire. This made him panic less from pain and more from the shock value of being on fire. Naruto let the wire go and followed him to the ground as he desperately swatted his arm against the dirt to get rid of the fire, in the process dropping the scroll of sealing. Naruto saw it and wondered whether it would be better to grab it and run or take care of Mizuki. Thoughts of what the man had done to Suzuki ran through his mind and that settled it. He would take care of the traitor for sure. Mizuki had planned for a counterattack though, and as soon as his arm had been saved began weaving hand signs. Naruto saw the danger and leaped back up onto the tree branch, recognizing the serpent sign used in earth jutsu. Doton, Retsudo Tensho. Mizuki slammed his fist into the ground and Naruto felt the ground shake around him and realized his perch wasn't as safe as he thought it was. Without much further delay, the ground collapsed in on itself and threatened to take the tree, and Naruto with it. The boy leaped off of it and hit the ground in a tough barrel roll to soak up the energy of the landing. He didn't get much time to recover though as Mizuki came up and kicked him right in the gut as he tried to stand, sending him back and forcing him into a tree. Let's see your girlfriend save you this time. 9 tails. Mizuki grabbed a kunai and dashed forward. Knowing that the boy got the wind knocked out of him and wouldn't be able to move, Naruto watched as Mizuki charged him, cursing himself for lowering his defense. He began to move agonizingly slow, attempting to reach for his own kunai. It was do or die and he knew it. Their kunai would meet and one of them would die. It was the only way the battle could come to an end. As the battle came to its climax, the other entity within Naruto felt it was time the ruse came off. For its own self-preservation, Kyuubi made the decision to free Naruto from his shackles for once. Alright boy, send some chakra to your eyes. It's time you use the Sharingan, or else you won't be able to react to his attack in time. Naruto pushed the surprise aside from Kyuubi speaking with him outside of the mindscape and did as he was told, allowing his undeveloped Sharingan to show. While he wasn't adept at using it, this being his first time, he could easily take advantage of its effects. Mizuki and the world slowed down around him as he predicted the man's movements and allowed himself to match them. This new power, along with inspiring thoughts of his family in Konoha, gave Naruto the strength to reach for his kunai and meet Mizuki in mid-dash. It had all happened so fast for the Chunin. He did not even have time to react when Naruto's kunai plunged deep into his stomach. Surprise was the first emotion. How did this boy have the skill to meet his own and exceed it? Then realization dawned on him. Somehow he had gotten the Sharingan from his new family and he had used it on him. He felt cheated out of victory. He was so close to power he could taste it. Mizuki slumped forward, his hand landing on Naruto's shoulder as he held the pose of stabbing Mizuki. A grin spread on the older man's mouth as his life force drained out on the earth below, and he whispered a few choice words to Naruto as his last revenge. Remember this boy. Remember me as your first kill. The first blood on your hands. Remember why you are a monster. He coughed up blood and slightly gurgled his last few words, making them unintelligible to Naruto as he fell back and hit the ground. It took Naruto a moment to recover as he looked at the bloody kunai and dropped it, not wanting to soil his hands any further. With his last words, Naruto did not want to look at Mizuki's dead body as he knew it would only haunt him the rest of his days. Instead, he grabbed the scroll and prepared to take off with it back to the village. But then that presence in his head spoke again, this time in a condescending tone. What do you think you are doing, boy? Now is our chance. We have the village's most sacred jutsu right there in that scroll, and with your Sharingan, you can read and memorize it all to be written down later. It's a perfect opportunity. Kyuubi was ecstatic. It seemed like Konoha had slipped up and they could reap the benefits. But isn't that wrong? They are sealed up for a reason. To copy them would be wrong to do. Naruto's conscience got the better of him as he argued with Kyuubi, who knew exactly how to handle the boy. Think about it, Naruto. What has the village itself ever done for you? They beat you, spit on you, ignored your very existence whenever possible. The only people who care for you are the two in that compound, and they are not well liked either. With these jutsu, you can better protect them from evils outside of the village and within its own walls. Don't you want that, Naruto? Kyuubi almost felt like cackling as the boy's mental barriers fell. I guess you're right. What has this village done for me? I can think of this as a payment for my good deed here. Naruto sat down and began to read the scroll with his Sharingan activated. This time no pain came as he kept it on for almost half an hour. Yes, that's right. Just a payment for what you've done. Kyuubi eyed the scroll as Naruto read through it, a devilish smirk forming on his face. By the time Irika arrived to collect Naruto and Mizuki, the boy had everything memorized and ready to go. When Naruto stepped into the hospital room by midnight, Suzuki had long fallen asleep. It was her hope to stay awake long enough to see him okay, but with gentle urgings from her mother she relented and let sleep fall upon her. While the ANBU were the first to notice his arrival, Makoto was the first to react as she charged him and hugged him tight to her breasts. "Oh, Naruto, I'm so glad to see you're all right." Naruto could barely breathe but bore with it so his Kasan could be happy. A few more hugs and kisses later and he was set free, allowing him to be welcomed by the Hokage next. The old man gave him a proud smile as the scroll was handed to him and news of Mizuki's death was told. It was a nasty business, dealing with a traitor to the village. Capture was preferred of course, but rarely did they ever allow themselves to be caught. It was even worse someone so young as Naruto was forced to kill, but it might have turned out to be a better experience for him in the long run. Thank you for returning this cumbersome troublemaker to me, Naruto. I apologize the trouble it's given you and Suzuki. Hiruzen honestly admitted, giving a slight bow to the Uchiha. Naruto just nodded, still in a bit of shock over his first kill and not wanting to revisit the thought. Instead, he allowed himself to think of Suzuki and went to her bedside, looking her over to make sure she was all right. All her wounds had been healed and she looked perfect, almost like an angel sleeping like that. Naruto brushed back a bang so he could look at her face as she slept. Her snow-white skin almost glistened in its untouched purity. This was how he wanted Suzuki to remain, safe and untouched, as beautiful as the day they met back in the academy. Makoto just smiled as she watched from afar, letting things play out as they would. Hiruzen too noticed the affectionate and delicate touch Naruto gave the girl and smiled. It seemed as though their forced relationship turned out for the better after all. Now that Naruto was in a bit better of a mood, the Hokage felt like now was as good as any to let Naruto have his reward. "Naruto, I would like to speak with you about something very important." The boy turned to see the Hokage with a few scrolls and reluctantly left the sleeping girl's side. "I'm not sure how much you know about your heritage, as much of it was purposely kept from you. However," Hiruzen sent a glance to Makoto before continuing. "We believe it's time you hear a little about a very important person in your life, and for you to have some things she left behind for you." Naruto's breathing heightened and he felt very anxious. Were they talking about who he thought they were? "Naruto Uchiha, I would like to tell you a story of a most beautiful and youthful kunoichi. One that most definitely be considered a unique type of shinobi here within Konoha, one that we don't see often. Naruto, I'd like to tell you about Uzumaki Kushina, your mother." The hospital room went dead silent at that moment. The only sound that could be heard was the teardrops that fell upon the tiled floor and the comforting whispers of a mother to her son. Chapter 6. Clan Rivalry. Konohagakure. Hospital. Uchiha Suite. The silence that followed the Hokage's story was deafening. Naruto felt as if a bomb had been dropped and he was in shell shock from the blast, deaf to the world with his thoughts racing. His mother, Uzumaki Kushina, was a ninja of the village and was one of the few remaining survivors of the Uzumaki clan following its destruction. To top it off, it seemed as though his adoptive mother Makoto knew Kushina personally, but she had either been unable or unwilling to alert Naruto of the connection. Makoto had done her best to comfort Naruto, but it seemed as if this was something he would have to sort out on his own. As his guardian and hopefully still his mother, she hoped that she could still help him through this difficult revelation. Just when he felt he had sunk into the Uchiha family, he had half of his heritage thrown at him. She would hate to ponder what would have happened should he have been told all of his history. The Hokage just looked at the boy as he stood there, processing the information in no doubt a scrambled, lost manner. Makoto stood beside him, a comforting hand on his shoulder as she looked down at him in worry. The girl Uchiha still had not woken from her slumber and would most likely be out until morning. The Hokage also knew it was time that he leave. Not only because his duty was done there, but also because he still had to fill out paperwork on this dreadful situation with Mizuki. Well, Naruto-kun, that is but a taste of who Uzumaki Kushina truly was. A marvelous kunoichi by all accounts. I'm sure my tale does her little justice. I wish I could stay longer to answer any questions you have. But I think right now you just need some time to think, and I must finish the paperwork of this mess and return the scroll of seals to its rightful place. If you will excuse me. Hiruzen began to make his way out but stopped before he passed Makoto, turning to speak. And Makoto, again pass my condolences to Suzuki-chan on the unfortunate events that happened this night and a hope for her speedy recovery. Good night. Makoto nodded and watched as the Hokage and his escort left the room and allowed them all peace. The room was quiet other than Makoto's attempt to speak, only for her to fall short of words. This wasn't something she had time to prepare for. I'm going to go home now. Makoto-san, there are a few things I have to think about, and I should go through these scrolls the Hokage gave me. Naruto shrugged off her hand and walked toward the door, leaving a shocked Makoto behind. He's never used that name for me. Is he angry with me? A sinking feeling in her stomach convinced her it was true, as she could have done better with the subject of Naruto's mother. Honestly, she was still in shock a bit and did not know how to speak to Naruto about the information. She was disappointed now, knowing she should have been more concerned with his feelings than her own. This event would be somewhat beneficial though. Not only would he be able to make use of his newfound Uzumaki knowledge early to develop his skills, he could also wean himself out of the idea she was his real mother. Having her as a strong pillar of support was one thing, but Naruto had almost seemed to consider himself Makoto's blood child. While this was not a bad thing to her, she knew that it would have hurt how he would take learning of his mother later on, possibly even forsaking her completely in favor of Makoto. It would break her to know she was the cause of her friend Kushina's child not taking on her name, so it was better this way. Still, it made her feel bad that Naruto was going through such a difficult experience like this, but she could do nothing until he himself figured out his feelings on the matter. He could take up his name as an Uzumaki and move out as soon as his age allowed, or he could remain an Uchiha and accept the fact he was an Uzumaki too. She had to admit she would rather him stay with her and Suzuki. They had grown so attached it would seem wrong for him to not be with them in the future. She sighed and took a chair next to Suzuki's bed, deciding it would be better to let Naruto have the compound to himself tonight. There was no doubt he had much to think about, and Makoto would be better of staying with her daughter at this time. Suzuki-chan, what will our Naruto do this time? Makoto spoke to her daughter as she gently held her hand, preparing to endure the long night. Please don't do anything rash. I want you to stay the same way, Naruto-kun. A knock signaled a new arrival, and Makoto immediately thought it odd someone would disturb them. Come in. She spoke, careful not to wake her daughter though. The door quietly squeaked open and then closed, revealing an embarrassed Kakashi with a small bouquet of flowers. Makoto cocked her head in confusion, wondering what the Jonin was doing there. It's not like they were particularly friends or anything. In fact, many of the Uchiha wanted him dead for having the Sharingan. No attempt was ever made as far as she knew, but even she had heard Fugaku speak ill of him on occasion. To already show concern for his student though made Makoto at least think well of him. Sorry, Uchiha-san, but I heard what happened and felt I should come and see how my soon-to-be students were. I passed Naruto, but he didn't seem to notice me. In fact, he looked like he was in a daze. Kakashi looked into space for a moment as he thought about the moment they passed. The boy looked like something terrible had happened. Ah yes. Well, Naruto-kun is just in shock over his first kill, I believe. He said he wanted to go home and rest, so I decided to stay here with Suzuki. Kakashi nodded and saw the girl in the bed, sleeping peacefully. He walked over and handed the flowers to Makoto, who placed them by the girl's bed on her nightstand. They seemed to be a random collection, no doubt what he could gather on a short notice. Still, the thought was what counted, as they say. Hee hee. He chuckled awkwardly, scratching his head as he saw her eye the flowers. It was short notice, as I'm sure you could tell. Makoto smiled and pointed at a seat for him to take, and out he graciously made use of. No, I'm sure Suzuki-chan will appreciate it. Silence fell on them as they just sat there, thinking of what to say. Makoto didn't really have anything to say to Kakashi and hoped he would leave soon. It wasn't that she necessarily disliked him, but the fact of the matter was the night was a very long and tiring one for her. There was too much to think about in such a short time, and his interruption only served to delay her from sorting out the racing thoughts in her mind. Kakashi-san, if there isn't anything else, I would appreciate it if you dash. He held up a hand that made her quiet down, hoping he got the message. I understand a lot has happened tonight, Makoto-san, and I will get out of your way. But there is something else I came here to discuss with you. This made Makoto realize the visit wasn't so last minute after all. It seemed Kakashi had planned on coming to see them anyway. What about? Kakashi sighed and leaned forward in the chair, clasping his hands together. It's about the training I'm going to put your kids through. I'm here to warn you beforehand so you don't hate me if I have to. Fail them. Makoto's eyes widened. Fail Naruto and Sasuke? What do you mean? Kakashi just kept that straight face as he looked at her. It only served to test her nerves. I'm sure you've looked over my file, Makoto-san. I have failed every group of genin sent my way because they did not accomplish my goal I set for them. With 2 Uchiha prodigies and an adhering loner on a team, I fear this group is even worse off than the rest. Makoto got a hard look in her eye and stood up as Kakashi's eyes followed her. May we continue this? Outside? He nodded after a moment and followed her out, having expected this response among others. Now then, how dare you presume my children are failures before they even begin their training? If you only came here to test my patience, you have done a good job. Makoto spat in an angry but hushed tone to the man who just took it in stride. I appreciate your concern for your children, but if they can't learn what I will try and teach them, then I have no choice but to fail them. They won't be ready for the world of ninja if they can't even understand the basics of what it means to be a Konoha shinobi. But like I said, this is only if they fail my test. If they don't, then I will gladly teach them everything I can. Makoto just glared at Kakashi. He was underestimating her kid's ability from the start, and that was something no one did. Well, prepare to be surprised, Kakashi. My children will pass whatever test you give them, and I swear that if they are failed, then I will teach them instead. Kakashi was surprised by the response but said nothing. Now please leave. This night has gone on for too long and I have too much to think about. He stayed a moment longer, sighed, and walked past her. I hope her confidence in them is well placed, but from what I hear, those two will just make the exercise into a competition. They might never be able to work on a team if all they see in their fellow Konoha shinobi is weakness, something to be pushed around. Makoto sighed and re-entered her daughter's room, this time for good. What Kakashi said did not shake her confidence in either of them though. She knew that together they could solve any problem. As long as their teammate could keep up, Team 7 wasn't going anywhere. Kanahagakure, Uchiha compound. Naruto's arrival home was signaled by a loud scream. All his pent-up frustrations were released as he cried and cried. He beat his fists into the floor, banged against the walls, and let his tears guide their way to his room. The stunning revelation that most definitely changed Naruto so much in so little time was too much to bear right after his first kill. He just hadn't had the time to process everything. Now he was letting his frustration and sadness out at once. He loved his new family, both Makoto and Sasuke. Being an Uchiha and living with them happily was all he ever wanted to do. So much so he forgot that they weren't his real family. Now that he heard the tale of his mother, Naruto was confused on what he should do next. Should he take the Uzumaki name? What should he consider Makoto, a mother, an aunt, a stranger? So many questions that only he had the answer to. He dragged himself to his bed and laid out the scrolls in a mess as he just took a few deep breaths. No matter what, he wouldn't let this info of his real mother change what he felt for Sasuke or Makoto. He wouldn't let it hurt his family. Uzumaki Kushina would be loved and missed as his birth mother. But he could only protect and love Makoto as his mother now, so he would do so just like he promised. I just need to calm down. I'm not doing anyone any good being an emotional wreck. Naruto calmed himself and then opened the first scroll. It seemed to have some locking measures he wasn't quite sure he understood. Sensing the boy's confusion, Kyubi decided to settle in and speak with him again. Naruto, I suggest you get an empty scroll and write those jutsu you found in it. Otherwise, you will forget them easily and waste this opportunity. Naruto remembered the scroll of sealing and knew the Kyubi was right. From his nearby desk, Naruto grabbed the necessary tools to begin archiving the jutsu he found. With a brush and ink, he spent the next hour or so copying down all he could remember from the scroll. Kyubi as well added his insight on the details as well as added a few things he felt the boy should know. Upon completion with his work, Kyubi advised Naruto to keep the scroll out, as they might learn a way to secure it from the Uzumaki scrolls. How do you know we will find something useful in these scrolls, Kyubi? Did you know my mother? The beast growled in annoyance, and he realized his mother was a touchy subject. I know enough of her to last a lifetime, and as I said when we first met, it will be discussed at a later date. For now, just accept my age comes with knowledge of many things. One of them, your clan, the Uzumaki. They were known for sealing techniques, something we can apply to lock that scroll would most definitely be in their reach. Naruto wasn't satisfied with Kyubi's answer but knew he could not argue with him. Fine, but I'm not sure how to go about opening this scroll. It says blood and lock in kanji, but will my blood work? The beast hummed in thought as they deciphered the scroll containing ancient knowledge. Either it's designed to work for a certain group of blood types or certain people. Seeing as how you weren't born yet so they couldn't add your blood to the lock, I figure it's probably any Uzumaki blood that will do. Either way, you have a 50-50 shot of opening it. He didn't like those odds considering the importance of the scroll's knowledge, but it was a gamble he had to take. Okay, here goes nothing. Naruto sat on his bed in front of the scroll as he bit his finger and allowed the blood to drip onto the parchment. Instead of soaking through, it lit up and a chakra spike signaled the lock's release. The ink and blood disappeared to form new writing that spanned the entire length of the scroll. Naruto was overwhelmed by the knowledge and glanced over everything he could. It seemed the first scroll was a basic history of his mother's clan. Where they came from, how they lived, their past battles, greatest triumphs, most bitter defeats, all at his fingertips. You have all night to read this petty history book, boy. Move on to the other two. We must prioritize our time. So taken up in excitement, Naruto realized that they had a limited time to see everything there. He quickly opened up the other three and saw they contained even more useful information. One contained info on something similar to an Uzumaki Kekkai Genkai, while the other two contained an entire scroll worth of information on the Uzumaki's unique Suiton and Fuinjutsu techniques. The bloodline trait incredibly interested Kyubi, but Naruto seemed to wander to all four, not sure which one to focus on first. I can learn how to harness the smallest amount of precipitation into a deadly whirlpool, or I can learn how to stop an entire army with just a single seal. If I understand how to use my Kekkai Genkai on my mother's side, there is no telling what I can accomplish. The tailed beast realized neither could get anything done in this sense, so he decided it was time the boy rested. Naruto, while I'm sure this is quite overwhelming for you, right now is a time for rest. We can go over this in more detail tomorrow. For now, we can pack it up to review later. The wise advice made him hesitate and realize he truly was tired, and considering everything that had happened, it was best he got some rest. The scrolls weren't going anywhere and he would learn nothing while he had a weary mind. It also wouldn't do him any good to see his family in a tired state. You are right, Kyubi. I will put these away for safekeeping. The beast grumbled assent and it too fell into slumber. This time because it wanted to and not because it had no other choice. He stowed the scrolls underneath his bed. In a small crawl space he found Itachi must have stored things. So far he had found nothing, but it wouldn't surprise him if the elder Uchiha didn't leave a few things behind. With nothing else to do, the blonde got back into bed and fell into an anxious slumber. Morning, Konohagakure, Uchiha compound, front gate. Are you sure you can walk on your own, Sasuke-chan? I can hell-dash, Ka-san. I can walk by myself. Leave me alone already. The two Uchiha women arrived at the gate of their compound after so much fuss getting there from the hospital. Makoto was just being a concerned mother, but her daughter would have none of that. Her limp barely showed, and it wouldn't last long with the great treatment the doctors gave her. If only her mother could see that, but unfortunately she was too overprotective for her own good. She almost felt like just staying at the hospital to get Makoto off her back, but she had to come home and see Naruto to make sure he was okay. Today is the day we meet Sensei and our teammate. This sore feeling had better go away before too long. Suzuki grumbled in her mind as they came into view of Naruto, who was waiting for them near their house. "Hey Ka-san, Suki-chan. Are you two all right?" The two women smiled at his greeting and joined him by the door. "Naruto." Suzuki hugged him tight, not wanting to let go. The blonde was confused at first, but then he understood and wrapped his arms around her. Suzuki hadn't seen him after he went after Mizuki. All that time she must have had so many fantasies of what happened, and then she fell asleep without knowing the outcome of the battle. She must have been very worried. "I guess I can't be too hard on her for making such a cute face." Makoto just smiled as the two embraced. Her children were so cute the way they got along so well. It wouldn't surprise her at the rate they were going before they were kissing in public and doing things a couple would do. Naruto was a bit shy and Suzuki preferred privacy to those types of things, but call it mother's intuition. She sensed the two would make an exception for each other. "I was so worried, you baka." She hit his chest, tears soaking his black high-collar top. Naruto frowned. He hated to see her so broken up over him. "I didn't mean to, Suzuki. I just couldn't let him get away with what he did to you." Suzuki knew why he did it, but it angered her that he went on without her, leaving her behind. "We do things together from now on. Understand?" She looked up at his eyes so innocently that he had no choice but to smile and nod. "Anything for you, Suzuki." Her playful side won for a moment at how happy she was with his answer. Naruto's happiness was replaced by utter surprise when she kissed him on the lips, a fleeting peck. "Good boy. Now wait here with Ka-san while I change into my new clothes." Naruto just watched, dumbfounded, as the girl walked to the front door. Makoto was wowed as her daughter led Naruto on with a cute turnaround in the door and a wink before disappearing to her room. If nothing else, it kept Naruto from saying anything, allowing Makoto to get her bearings. She didn't want to pry, but she had to know what Naruto's decision was after last night and his time alone. "Naruto-kun, how did last night go?" The blonde awoke from his daze and turned to face his mother, feeling a bit playful himself with her bashful look. "What do you mean, Miko-chan?" The use of the nickname gave her hope, but she dared not spoil it, wanting to hear it from his mouth. "Did you come to a decision after reading about your mother, Kushina?" Mentioning her friend in such a depressing manner made her head fall to the ground in shame. This was it. Surely Naruto no longer wished to stay with them. Being a proud Uzumaki would be his choice, to carry on his mother's legacy and revive the long-dead clan. What boy would not dream of such a destiny? "Why, I'm staying here with my family." "What made you think otherwise, Ka-san?" Makoto looked up in shock to meet his eyes, surprised by his utter pride in the fact. But, Naruto, your mother Kushina." Naruto smiled reassuringly. It seemed his mother needed as much persuasion as he did. "My mother, Uzumaki Kushina, will be dearly missed, and I will do everything I can to make her proud of me. What kind of shinobi would I be if I left those who need me the most behind? What kind of son would I be to leave my mother?" Makoto betrayed herself and brushed a tear away. It seemed Naruto saw through them better than others could. He knew just how to answer her worst fears with reassurance. "Thank you, Naruto. I know it may be selfish, but..." Makoto smiled with teary eyes at her son, her true son. "I want you to stay with Suzuki and me. Kushina was a great friend of mine, and I hope she will understand these feelings." Naruto joined his mother in an embrace, bringing her as close as he could. The action surprised her, but she quickly returned the hug and listened as he spoke. "Ka-san will understand. The Uzumaki will be reborn again with the Uchiha, just as the Uchiha were reborn 6 years ago. This time, we are one family now." Makoto just smiled and hugged him tight, glad that he was willing to stay. "Oh, Naruto, you know just what to say to make Ka-san happy." Ahem. They quickly separated to find Suzuki standing in the doorway again, this time with her hands on her hips and an accusing glare sent at the two. While Makoto was a bit embarrassed of the situation they were caught in, Naruto couldn't take his eyes off of the girl's new clothes. She now joined him in wearing an Uchiha black high-collar shirt, but hers was cut at the midriff to show her perfect stomach. Going lower, she wore a small skirt that adorned the Uchiha symbol along its sides and covered only about to her thighs, and going even farther revealed long black leather boot sandals that clung tightly to her legs. The last obvious change was her headband that, instead of being tied to her forehead, was worn around the neck. "Did I catch you two at a bad time?" she asked sarcastically, eliciting an awkward laugh from her mother and practically a nosebleed from Naruto as he checked out her new outfit. A smirk formed in her mind as she watched him. It seems my new taste in clothing is also liked by Naruto. I suppose that makes up for the fact that Ka-san almost went too far with my Naruto-kun. Even with my skill, I can't compete with her yet. And no, of course not, Suzuki-chan. Naruto-kun and I were just Suki-chan. Ka-san was hugging me because she was still worried about me after yesterday. You know how clingy she is. Naruto saved his mother the trouble of explaining when it was his fault anyway. Satisfied with the answer, Suzuki let it drop and began to walk out the front gate toward the village. Naruto looked at Makoto and, when she gave an approving nod and smile, ran off after her to go see their new sensei. A sudden sinking feeling in her gut came about when she thought of the Jonin Kakashi and what he said. That was when she saw what made her almost jealous of her young daughter. The two entwined their hands as they left the safety of the compound to the exposure of the outside world. Makoto smiled. Everyone would look at them now, and they all would know where the true strength of the reborn Uchiha came from. Their love for one another will beat any obstacle. Just as my love will protect them for as long as I live. Speaking of that, Makoto had important business to attend to with the Hokage. It was time she made a more notable inquiry on a specific pair of eyes she wanted for a long time. Konohagakure Ninja Academy. The entire class went quiet as the two Uchiha arrived. Rumors had already spread throughout the school about their escapades last night. When everyone saw their hands together, it seemed the class would be in an uproar in jealousy. Naruto and Suzuki ignored them and took their spots in the corner of the classroom away from the idiots and drama queens. That was something Naruto had to appreciate in Suzuki. Even though she was popular, she didn't bother to pursue it. He liked staying out of the spotlight and was glad his sister agreed to the idea. Sakura and Ino just looked at the two and sighed in envy, what they wouldn't give to have a chance to hang out with either of them. They were leeches that thrived on popularity, but they were starved dry by the Uchiha who let no one near them. Kiba growled. He promised one of these days he would teach Naruto a lesson and get Suzuki for himself. An alpha male claiming his mate from a pitiful mutt. He's just posing as an Uchiha. He's not worth mating with her. I'll show her after I kick his ass. For now though, Kiba was at least smart enough to know not to take on Naruto with her around. She was liable to jump in. Shino and Shikamaru had watched the two come in with a neutral or lazy attitude to it all. Shino looked at the Uchiha prodigies as worthy Konoha ninja as well as a good challenge. Shikamaru just saw them as the cause of his headache every morning. If I have to hear about those two one more time, I might just ask my dad to teach me more Narakage techniques. Luckily, he was saved from too much of an uproar when the homeroom teacher came in. Many of the students were silently questioning where Mizuki was, as he usually came in along with Irika. Their parents most likely did not tell them anything specific, especially as it was only Jonin that were debriefed on the situation. Irika watched as their eyes darted around the classroom and their minds wandered. It looked like he would have to make a class announcement. Mizuki will not be joining us any longer in the classroom as he was found to be a traitor to the Hidden Leaf. Last night he was killed before he could leave the village with important documents. They gasped, who would have thought he was a traitor all this time? Even more interesting, who was the one that killed him? Naruto's hand scrunched into a fist and his face scrunched up, remembering last night. Suzuki immediately noticed and put her hand over his, giving him an understanding smile. Irika noticed the two Uchiha in the comforting gesture as his eyes wandered to check on them. They had been key figures on that night. He smiled as it looked like they would pull through just fine. All right, quiet down. Let this be a lesson to always be vigilant. Even someone you know and trust can change. Sometimes for the worse. They quieted down and took in his lesson as the grave example was enough for most to understand. Well, enough of this talk. Today should be an exciting day since I have the list of genin teams right here. Irika smiled and held up the clipboard, eliciting a cheer from the students. Naruto and Suzuki stayed quiet, patiently waiting for their names to be called as the teams were listed off by Irika. Sakura Haruno was on a team with Hyuga Hinata and Inuzuka Kiba, with their team captain acting as Jonin Kurenai Yuhi. Yamanaka Ino, Nara Shikamaru, and Akimichi Choji were on team under Asuma Sarutobi. Team 7. Uchiha Suzuki, Uchiha Naruto, and adhering Shino under Jonin Kakashi Hitaki. Irika looked up from his list as he read off the last team to see the reactions. Eyes were darting between the three called as they looked nonchalant. And adhering eh? Humph. He better not get in our way. I never really got to understand Shino. Looks like this will be a good chance to. Uchiha? Quite an interesting team indeed, you were right, father. Well, that does it for the team list. Now I think it's time you meet your teachers. Irika motioned toward the door and shouted, "Come on in." The door slid open and in came a half a dozen jonin to pick up their students. Naruto eyed the one teacher, Yuhi Kurenai, and expertly hid a blush with his folded hands. The woman was beautiful with her piercing red eyes and charcoal black hair. He was thankful Suzuki couldn't see as she was too preoccupied trying to find their teacher but did not see him. Damn it! Where is this guy? It wasn't long before everyone but Team 7 and Irika were left, and he soon left too. Hehe. I hear Kakashi-san is known for being a bit tardy. I will be in the teacher's lounge if you need me. Otherwise, please be patient. And with that, the three silent ninja were alone with each other. Shino cut a sideways glance at them as they did the same, staring at one another before simultaneously standing up and coming to stand next to each other at the front of the room. Shino, Naruto, adhering, Uchiha. Their quick greetings showed how little they knew of one another, partly because neither side was exactly social with the other. Still, Naruto wished Suzuki would get along a little better with their new teammate instead of seeing him in some clan rivalry. At the very least, they could boast they have the same cool attitude, other than Suzuki's hot temper at times. Looks like we get the lazy teacher. Geez. Naruto leaned against the front desk as the other two just stared each other down. Naruto shook his head and sighed. This was going to be a long day. Konohagakure, Hokage Mansion. How can you tell me you don't know? I addressed this problem years ago and have given ample space for your investigation and you can't find a pair of eyes? Two dangerous eyes in the wrong hands. Makoto yelled at the two advisors as the Hokage sat in his desk and they stood at his sides. The Uchiha matriarch continued to push for a further investigation on the disappearance of Uchiha Shirsue's eyes upon their initial findings of nothing. It seemed as if any records of his body being recovered from the river were non-existent. I'm sorry, Makoto-san, but our current investigation has still turned up nothing. We had Shirsue Uchiha's body moved directly to the morgue after its recovery. I even remember giving the order. But we cannot find documentation. We have no leads either as no spy activity has been detected, nor were any unauthorized personnel allowed anywhere near the body. Makoto couldn't believe their incompetence but knew that yelling would do nothing. I will remember this injustice, Hokage, and you as well, counselors. They received her words and glare in stride, but the impact was still noticeable. Uchiha Dano, we are doing all we can. Please bear with us, as you know we did not want this outcome either. Hamura ground out in comparison to his previous conversations with the Uchiha, which were in a more pleasant tone. Yes. All you must worry about now is fulfilling the CRA agreement as we approach the deadline for Suzuki-chan. Are you sure that they will be willing to procreate? Makoto almost growled, gripping the chair she stood behind tightly. It is not my place to force them to do anything they are not ready to do. All I can say is that they are now in a relationship other than brother and sister. However fast they progress through this is not my business to say. The elders weren't satisfied but said nothing in return and the Hokage just nodded. Enough of this tense conversation. I don't believe Makoto's presence here warrants an argument every meeting. Now, let's go over Kakashi's plan for your children, Makoto-san. I'm sure you will be interested. She felt a chill at the sound of his name but ignored it, instead feigning interest. Yes, she said with a fake smile. I would love to hear what Jonin Hitaki's plan is for them. Chapter 7. Our Little Secret, Konohagakure, Ninja Academy. It felt as if they had been waiting hours when finally their teacher entered the classroom. Naruto's teammates broke their never-ending stare contest to watch as the silver-haired jounin entered the room with an apologetic smile. Hehe. Sorry about being so late. I guess I just got lost on the road of life. You know how it is. Naruto gave him an odd look. This guy definitely wasn't like the rest of the teachers they saw. He seems pretty lazy. But there is something about him that just radiates strength. Odd. Suzuki and Shino were a bit annoyed at his laid-back behavior since he made them wait for so long. Shino didn't mind too much. It's just that he would have preferred to not get into a conflict with his teammate before their teaching even began. The Uchiha, of course, was annoyed because of sheer impatience. Who was this man to make them wait for this long? Did he not get the memo of when to meet teams? What took you so long? Suzuki asked with her arms crossed. Annoyed, Kakashi looked at her for a second before crossing his arms too. Well, sorry Uchiha-hime, but maybe I had other things I to do? That said, now that I'm here we should probably get down to business. Suzuki was getting more and more annoyed, but Naruto just moved to her side and placed a hand on her shoulder. Yes, that sounds like a plan. Kakashi looked at Naruto and saw that the Jinchuriki had taken a stunning turn since being adopted by the Uchiha. He was calm now, and it seemed as though he had gotten better at his studies. Apparently Naruto was number 2 in the academy, trailing Suzuki only by a small margin. He had also gained popularity since being adopted. Kakashi figured it came with the name, but now he wondered if it was the change in performance that led people to respect him. Perhaps he had potential after all, and he had to appreciate the kid's ability at keeping his sister on a leash. Alright then, let's head to the roof. The first part of our team-building exercise will be to get to know one another. Kakashi waved and disappeared in a puff of smoke, leaving the three to make their way to the roof on their own. GUH, the nerve of that guy. Suzuki muttered but eased up with Naruto's presence close by as they walked. Shino lagged behind them a bit. Come on. He was just trying to get a rise out of you. Naruto tried to make her ease up but recoiled when she sent him a glare. Okay. Calm down. But still, this guy is odd. There is something about him that makes me feel cautious around him. Suzuki hadn't noticed the feeling but nodded all the same in agreement. I feel as if we should stay united if we wish to beat his mind games. Naruto looked to his right and saw Shino walking with him now. It sent a shiver down his spine at how mysterious the guy was. Why yeah. You're right, Shino. We are teammates. We have to work together if we want to stand against Kakashi-sensei's tricks. Shino nodded in agreement, but Naruto saw that Suzuki was still glaring at him. That doesn't mean I'll let you show me up, bug boy. I wouldn't count on it, Uchiha. Naruto sighed. Well, at least it was a start. It wasn't long before they got up the stairs and reached the roof where Kakashi was waiting for them, leaning against the academy's railing. He was reading some orange book while he waited, but when he saw them he quickly put it away in his bag. He indicated they sit on the steps in front of him, and they did so, Naruto in the middle to keep the two from tearing into one another. Alright, now how about you all introduce yourselves? Tell us a little about you so we can get to know you. Likes, dislikes, that kind of stuff. Kakashi said lazily, and they figured he really wasn't enthused to be their teacher. Well, that's not much to go on. How about you go first so we don't make fools of ourselves? Suzuki said with a haughty tone and a smirk. Well, fine, if that's what you want. Kakashi shrugged and looked into the sky for a moment to think. Well, my name is Kakashi Hitaki. I'm not going to tell you my likes or dislikes, and I don't really have any dreams. As far as hobbies, well, I guess I have a few of those. He scratched his head and chuckled only for Naruto and Suzuki to collectively sigh at his pathetic introduction. The only thing I got out of that was your name. Naruto complained and Suzuki nodded. Pretty bad example for a jounin. Kakashi's sweat dropped and felt as if he was comedian in front of a tough crowd. Shino had nothing to say, although he too was annoyed by their sensei's laid-back attitude towards the situation. At the very least, he could take the teaching part seriously even if he did not like the students. Alright, now it's your turn. If my performance wasn't enough, why don't you try and outdo me then? Suzuki and Naruto looked at one another and then back at their teacher. Why should we bother if you aren't going to take this seriously? Kakashi thought about it for a moment before giving them a straight answer. Because if you don't tell me your names, I'll just make some up for you. The two sweat dropped and Suzuki decided she would go first. Fine then. My name is Suzuki Uchiha. My likes. Well, there is really only one thing I care about, and that's my family. I hate a lot of things. To list them all would take too long. My dream. My goal. Naruto looked at Suzuki as she paused. It looked as if she was having difficulty choosing what to say. Kakashi kept up his lazy routine but was a bit interested in what she would have to say. considering the things that happened to her family. My dream is to have a large family with someone I love. Suzuki blushed and looked at Naruto, who did the same thing and smiled at her. Guess I was worrying for nothing, he thought as he looked into her eyes and could see nothing but happiness. Maybe she is just a good liar, Kyubi whispered to himself, not allowing the boy to hear what he said. Kakashi didn't change outwardly, still just having the same lazy look as he looked at the team. Inside, though, he could see how she flinched at the point when she had to talk about her goals in the future. It seemed there was something she wanted to hide, a dream that she did not want even her beloved brother to know about. Kakashi had a guess, but there was no way to be sure. Any hobbies of yours? He asked her, to which she turned to look at him. Training and being with my family. The Jounin nodded, a satisfactory way to end. All right, you're next. Naruto saw him pointing at him and knew it was his turn. He felt not only his teacher's eyes on him, but his teammates as well. My name is Naruto Uchiha. Kakashi's eyes widened for a moment before going back to normal. It seemed like the kid acclimated well to being adopted into the family. He sounded very comfortable when he said it. My likes are being with my family, eating Kasan's food, and being with Suzuki. The two shared a glance before he continued, scrunching up his face in displeasure on his dislikes. I dislike it when someone tries to hurt my family, and I dislike it when someone picks on those who are weaker than them. As for my dreams, well, they are more like goals, but Naruto looked at Suzuki and held her hand in a reassuring fashion. She smiled in response. I want to have a large family and I will protect them, even if it costs me my life. Suzuki was surprised by his declaration. She had no idea Naruto felt so strongly about it. For some reason, it made her feel warm inside to know he cared about them that much. My hobbies are the same as Suzuki's. Kakashi shrugged and just watched as the brother-sister love combo stared at each other before pointing to Shino. With it now his turn, Shino waited a moment before speaking in his usual monotone voice. My name is Shino Aburame. My likes are observing insects and categorizing new species. My dislikes are people who rush into things without thinking and those who do not appreciate insects. The three other group members' sweat dropped. In retrospect, they shouldn't have been surprised by his answers. Geez, I wonder what the rest of his family is like. Probably a bunch of weirdos. Suzuki shuddered at the thought of insects. She hated them. My goal is to rise to Aburame clan head and increase our influence in Konoha. My hobbies are, as you may have guessed, entomology and anything pertaining to insect study. Shino made no outward reaction to show he was done, so Kakashi just guessed that the long pause meant it was over. Well, all right then. It seems we have quite a unique team here. The four looked amongst one another subtly. That much was an understatement. Tomorrow, we will have our first mission together. Suzuki got a bit excited at the sound of a mission. What kind of mission? She asked. A survival exercise, Kakashi said, which made Suzuki have a disappointed look on her face while Naruto was confused. Survival training? Didn't we already do that in the academy? He asked, and Suzuki angrily nodded. Yeah. Why are you making us do the same thing when you know we already passed it? Kakashi sighed. She was going to be a tough one to work with. This is not like your ordinary academy training. This just made them even more confused. Then what makes it so special? Naruto asked, and Kakashi began to chuckle. Suzuki was just about to yell at him but was calmed down by Naruto, who just shook his head, meaning it wasn't worth it. Shino had stayed silent for the majority of the meeting but was finally getting impatient with their teacher. This doesn't seem like a laughing matter, sensei. Kakashi looked at the Aburame and his laugh died out. The straight face the kid gave him made him lose his sense of humor. Well, it's just I'm trying to imagine your faces when I tell you this next part. You see, only 9 of the graduates of the academy will become genin, the rest will be sent back. This surprised the 3 a bit as they flinched at the new information. So that means, Suzuki muttered, not wanting to finish the sentence. Yes, 66% of your graduating class will be sent back, and this test is designed to see if you have what it takes to stay. Kakashi watched them all soak this in, but it did not have the desired intimidating effect he wanted. So, when do we start this test? Naruto asked with a smirk. His confidence radiated off to Suzuki and Shino. Yeah, I'm ready to go. My insects are chattering with excitement. Well, I suppose we will have to see how well you do tomorrow at the training grounds. Bring your ninja gear at meet at 5 o'clock in the morning. Kakashi got off the railing and made to leave only to stop as if he just remembered something. Oh yeah, and don't eat any breakfast. You'll just puke it up anyway. Later, Kakashi disappeared in a puff of smoke, leaving the 3 genin hopefuls to gather themselves and go home. Looks like the entire point of this was to try and intimidate us, Naruto said as they all got up from the steps and stood in a circle together. Yeah, but I don't think it worked since we saw through what he was trying to do, Sasuke said, and Shino and Naruto nodded in agreement. Tomorrow we will have to work together to win. If we all stick together, we can beat Kakashi-sensei and stay as genin, Naruto said, hoping the two would agree. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Just try to keep up, Shino. Sasuke smirked at the adhering who just looked at her through the dark glasses. I was just about to say the same thing, Sasuke. I'll be the trump card of the operation though. Just watch. With that, Shino began to walk off and the 2 Uchiha quickly followed, eager to get home. Kakashi watched from a nearby rooftop as they left. A smile came to his face. Not bad, Squad 7. Konohagakure, Uchiha compound. The 2 Uchiha made it back home in one piece, content with the way the meeting ended. Naruto knew that to have any chance of beating Kakashi, they would have to work together. He pondered for a moment if that was why the test was set up, to test and see if the genin would set aside their differences and work together, but ignored it as they entered home. Ka-san, we're home, Naruto announced as he and Sasuke took off their sandals and made their way inside. Makoto opened up the sliding door from the kitchen and smiled at them. She had gotten home from her meeting over an hour ago and had just recently started making lunch for them. Their team meeting took longer than she was expecting, but apparently Kakashi was often tardy to such things, and she was not surprised. Ah, welcome back, you two. I hope everything went well with Hatake-san. Makoto decided it would be best if she stayed neutral with Kakashi, at least with her children, in case they took a liking to him. He's a lazy jounin who doesn't know how to tell time, Sasuke complained, crossing her arms in annoyance. Makoto giggled and was secretly pleased her daughter didn't take a liking to him. Yeah, there's something about him though. I think if we earn his trust, he might really be able to teach us something. Naruto's answer surprised the 2 women as they did not expect him to like the man. Yeah, teach us how to be late maybe, Sasuke countered, and Naruto just shrugged. Well, I'm sure after your training exercise with him, you will find out what kind of person he is. Makoto tried to ease her daughter's annoyance. Wait, Ka-san, how did you know we have a training exercise with him? Makoto brought a hand to her mouth after realizing what she said. Ah, the Hokage told me that it was something Kakashi did with all his genin squads. Naruto seemed to accept this answer, and Sasuke was too focused on something else to mind. Woo, that was close. It wouldn't do if I told them he failed all his other squads. I've been making lunch. It should be ready soon. Then we can talk about a few things. Naruto nodded as Makoto went back into the kitchen to continue working while he and Sasuke remained in the hall. I'm going to go out back and train, Naruto. Would you like to join me? Sasuke asked. She figured they would need to be ready for tomorrow, so warming up now wouldn't hurt. I'm sorry, Sasuke, but I still haven't gotten through those scrolls the Hokage gave me. There might be something in there we can use to win tomorrow, so I think it's best if I go upstairs and read. Maybe later I can come out. Sasuke smiled and kissed him on the cheek, waving goodbye as she walked past to go outside. See you later then, Naruto-kun. Naruto blushed at the nickname and walked the opposite way, toward the stairs to take him to his room. Geez, she teases me too much. I'm glad that when we are alone though, she can be so sweet. With her standoffish attitude to everyone else, it made him feel a little special that she treated him nicely. As he climbed the stairs, Kyuubi began to stir in anticipation. It was time to accelerate the boys' training so that he could accurately represent Kyuubi as a human container, however much the beast detested that word. It meant he was caged, imprisoned. Not exactly something that fit well for something of his stature. My human avatar. I like that a bit better. Naruto entered Itachi's room, now his own. The scrolls lay undisturbed where he left them, right on his desk across the room from his bed and window. He grabbed the one that had piqued his interest the most and the one he felt would be best to start off with. The Uzumaki bloodline. Apparently his mother's family had some sort of ability that other shinobi didn't, just like the Uchiha's Sharingan. I am very interested in this. Even though I observed it in action, I never really knew what it was from a human's perspective. Kyuubi's thoughts rang in Naruto's mind as he unfurled the scroll and began to read through. The Uzumaki are blessed with a multitude of our bloodline, nicknamed the Tailed Beast Curse. While the namesake makes it out to sound like a terrible affliction, any Uzumaki can argue that without our bloodline we would surely be in a more disadvantageous spot. The main overview of the bloodline is not a single ability like that of the Sharingan, but instead an overall stronger body more suited to a shinobi. With expanded chakra coils at birth, upon full maturity, an adult Uzumaki can be expected to wield twice that of an experienced Kage. We have been fabled as the shinobi who are tailed beasts without tails for our amazing stamina and endurance, which allows us to fight for days without resting. This high level of natural fitness also leads us to have long lives, and commonly an Uzumaki can be expected to live over 100 years and still be a capable shinobi. Apart from the abilities we gain from our blood, there are many specific jutsu that are capable of being used by only an Uzumaki. For example, due to the complexity and drain on the body, much of our Fuinjutsu archives can only be used by Uzumaki seal masters. That also goes for our most common nature affinity, water. All Haiden Jutsu catalogued by Uzumaki use an exorbitant amount of chakra, but for a more devastating effect. It is also to our benefit that all Uzumaki imbued with water nature are quite naturally talented with it, many being able to create cascades of water from just the vapor within air, which only few others can do. The Uzumaki bloodline is not something that is trained, but that is utilized by the body automatically. This benefits the clan that we do not have to spend time training young ones on how to use it. Instead, they learn to use it through everyday training and activity. So this is why I'm almost never tired, because of my bloodline. And whenever we did jutsu training back when we were young and everybody got tired after a few tries, I could keep going. This is pretty amazing. Kyuubi huffed in assent. And this was just his mother's side. Yes, I agree. Don't forget about me either. My chakra invigorates your body as well and can be used for jutsu if you ever run low on regular chakra. Be careful though, my chakra is more volatile than a human's. With my chakra interacting with your coils slowly over time, it's made your chakra a bit more potent. I have yet to see what this could mean though. Naruto took Kyuubi's words into consideration and came to a very obvious realization. He wasn't an ordinary ninja, nor would he be as he grew. This is going to set me apart from others. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Kyuubi laughed at the boy's indecisiveness, as power meant everything to him. This is great, Kit. Any who stand in our way won't stand a chance. People will cower in fear of us when we step onto a battlefield. And it means you will be that much more capable of protecting your family. That made the blonde smile, just as Kyuubi knew it would. As long as he is doing it for his family, he's fine with it. Ka-san, Suki-chan, I will protect you with this. Naruto put the scroll back on the desk and began to reach for another before Kyuubi interrupted him again. Naruto, in your current state, you won't be much of a challenge for this Kakashi. I suggest you open up that scroll you wrote down the forbidden jutsu in. There might be something in it that we can use. Naruto looked at the scroll and picked it up. You seem like you already know what I'm supposed to find. Just call it a hunch, now read. Naruto grumbled in agreement before beginning to look through the jutsu that had been listed in the scroll of sealing. All jutsu within were considered forbidden to use as they were too dangerous to the user or too threatening for the balance of nature. He saw mention of many Edo, Jikuken, and even some Fuinjutsu that could have been written in by the Uzumaki, but then he came to one in particular that made the Kyuubi excitedly growl. That's it. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Something your mother made use of often along with many other Uzumaki. Naruto's interest was piqued after that, and he read on to find out what was so special about the jutsu. So I can make clones of myself. But the clones are real? Naruto remembered the Academy E-rank Bunshin Jutsu, but they were only images and could not interact with the world around it. So much more than that, boy. Anything the clone knows, you know. Use it to have multiples of you train one jutsu to learn it quicker. Apart from that, they are excellent combat tools as they too can use chakra. It was then he realized just how useful the jutsu could be and wondered why other people didn't use it. So QB, this jutsu seems pretty amazing. Why is it that only Uzumaki ever used it? The beast huffed in annoyance. The kid was smart, but he didn't apply it. Of course others have tried it, but they could never use it like the Uzumaki. It literally forces a person to replicate their chakra system, of course to a bare minimum of chakra, but still the entire chakra system to create the clone. It's very draining and can kill a person from only making a few clones. Uzumaki, on the other hand, have such high reserves they could make dozens and even hundreds and only break a sweat. Wow. Sounds like a good idea to learn. When do you think I should start? Right now, damn it. Naruto. Lunch is ready. They sweat dropped as he put the scroll away for later use and went downstairs to join his family for lunch. Damn vixens. Getting in my damn way. Naruto ignored him in favor of his stomach, which was growling in anticipation for his mother's food. He quickly jolted downstairs and ran into the family room to see Suzuki and Makoto already sitting down, waiting for him. They shared a smile before eating their meal of rice and fish. It remained quiet at the table until they finished eating. It was then that Makoto decided it would be good to speak with them about the CRA. It's not that she wanted to rush them into fulfilling it, but the more knowledge they had about it, the more they could get used to it. She decided it would be best to leave the part about her and Naruto out of the conversation. It was a subject she didn't even know how to feel about, let alone discuss. Naruto, Suzuki. There is something we should speak about. The two had been talking to one another before they heard their mother's serious voice and knew it was best to listen. What is it, Ka-san? Suzuki asked curiously. Remember when I spoke to you when you were younger, about how you two would be married? The two looked at each other and blushed. They nodded. Well, I wanted to tell you more about the reason why you are getting married. You see, because the Uchiha have lost so many members, the village wants our numbers to be replenished. So, because you are a female of the Uchiha clan, you must get married to have children to spread the Sharingan. Suzuki wanted to have a large family and she wanted to be with Naruto, so it didn't change her feelings on the subject much. For Naruto, he was just surprised for the reason behind the whole thing of being married. It didn't seem very appealing that the village was forcing them to have children for them, even though they were theirs to raise. Something about it didn't sit right with him, but since it was a while off, he just was glad he could be with Suzuki and grabbed her hand. She smiled and leaned in to kiss him right as Makoto continued to speak. And your first child must be delivered by the time you are 16. Just as they were about to kiss, their eyes shot open and they backed up in a mad blush. What? They shouted and Makoto's sweat dropped. She brought her hands up and tried to allay their concerns. Now, it's still a ways off. I thought it would be best you keep it in mind though, because it's important we follow the rules the council have set. Makoto looked off in space for a second before adding with a glare. For now at least. But that's crazy. We should be able to. I mean, it's our relationship. How can they dash? Naruto was cut short by Makoto's words that were like a knife right through his heart. Because if you don't, the CRA will force Suzuki to have intimacy with someone else. You don't want that, do you, Naruto? Naruto couldn't believe it. They would actually do something like that just for the Sharingan. I would never dash. You wouldn't have a choice, Suki-chan. They could force us if they have to. The girl didn't seem to back down and Makoto was secretly glad her daughter wasn't too happy about that. It meant her feelings were genuine. Naruto wasn't going to let that happen to Suzuki, even if it meant they would have to. Have intimacy. The word seemed forbidden, taboo on his tongue. Something that was reserved for adults, not something a kid should have to worry about. But Ka-san, what about you? Naruto's question was what she was hoping to avoid, and she attempted to bypass the question with reassurance. Don't worry, Naruto-kun. Ka-san has a plan to keep me from having to do anything I don't want to. The vague answer was enough for Naruto. He didn't want to see his mother forced into something like that. I'm just sorry I'm using you, Naruto-kun, but I wonder if you would mind or not. No, that's not the right way for a mother to think. I'm just doing this until I can find someone suitable. If you say so, this is still bull. I can't believe the village is doing this. I can't believe the Hokage is doing this. Suzuki was practically fuming. They are just trying to make sure the village stays strong. Suzuki, Konoha needs the Sharingan. Because we are all ninja, there is a chance one of us may die and then they might lose our Kekkei Genkai forever. That is why they are making you do such things at a young age. Makoto tried to explain to her daughter, but she was still angry. Ka-san, seeing as how we are getting some things out in the open, there is something I want to show you and Suzuki that well, you'll have to see. Makoto and Suzuki shared a curious glance before getting up and following Naruto to his room. What are you doing, Kit? Don't tell me you are going to show them the scroll? That is supposed to be our power. Naruto gritted his teeth at Kyuubi's anger. If we all know the jutsu here, we will all be more powerful. They are my family, Kyuubi. I won't keep this from them. Kyuubi just growled and retreated deeper into his cage. The boy's heart needs to get colder. Greed would be his best friend. It's over here. Naruto led them to his desk and grabbed a specific scroll and began to unfurl it. Makoto figured it was something he found out about his mother or clan and wanted to show them, while Suzuki thought it would be something more useful like a jutsu. As soon as he unfurled the scroll and let it loose, their eyes widened at the dozens of kenjutsu written down with all details. Makoto wobbled a bit before she knelt down and began to look through the scroll with wide eyes. Her hands shook. Suzuki just looked at the first few and realized she was getting excited, sending Naruto a smile. This is awesome, Naruto. Where did you find all these jutsu? I can't wait to learn them. Naruto chuckled and scratched his head in embarrassment like he didn't do anything special. Well, you see, when I beat Mizuki, the scroll of seals was there and I kind of opened it and read it. These are jutsu I remembered and wrote down. Makoto couldn't believe it. Naruto would do something like that? This is bad. If the Hokage ever found out, we would get in a lot of trouble. It's practically treason. Naruto, do you know how much trouble you could get into for doing this? Naruto and Suzuki froze when they heard their mother's trembling voice rise in anger. She sounded genuinely scared. I am sorry, Ka-san. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Makoto looked over the scroll again and tried to calm herself down. Now that I think about it, this could work to our advantage. The council took Shirsue's eyes, so now we take their jutsu. I'll think of it as an advanced payment. I can turn it into the Hokage or burn it, Ka-san, if you want. Naruto said quietly, not wanting to make his mother angry. No. Are you stupid or something? I told you not to show them, and what do? Damn it, Kit. You are an idiot. I didn't think it would work out like this. I won't go against what Miko-chan wants though. I don't want to get her in trouble. Damn you! Naruto zoned out Kyuubi's voice and proceeded to wrap up the scroll when Makoto responded with something that surprised him. Naruto, let me see the scroll. Naruto gulped and handed Makoto the scroll, who took it and then proceeded to bonk him on the head with it. Baka! Next time tell me when you do something so dangerous, okay? Naruto scratched his head and nodded. Suzuki saw the mischievous glint in her mother's eye and smiled. She was going to let them use it. So, Ka-san, that means we are keeping it, right? Makoto looked at her daughter, paused, and then nodded in agreement, but before her daughter could snatch it, held it high in the air. But you only may learn the jutsu one at a time and with my permission, understand? They both nodded and Makoto gave it back to Naruto, who just kept looking at her to make sure she meant it. Ka-san, I was going to start learning one of the jutsu. Apparently it suited perfect for me as an Uzumaki. Makoto watched as he opened the scroll and pointed toward the one he wanted to learn. Kage Bunshin. I've heard of that jutsu and I saw Kushina-chan use it often. I'm sure it will be a great asset to you, Narukuin. So go ahead and start training as soon as you can. Just be careful, it is a kenjutsu after all. Naruto smiled wide and nodded, not noticing Suzuki's pout. So what about me? Makoto smiled and pointed a finger at her own chest. I'll teach you a jutsu, Suzuki, because I know you still only know the fireball jutsu. It's time we stepped up to another katan jutsu, Katan Hozenka. Suzuki seemed to accept this, although the choice between a rare kenjutsu and some katan jutsu wasn't exactly very fair. Come on, Suzuki. Time to spend some time with your mother. We will see you for dinner, Naruto-kun. The two left him to his own devices, allowing him to begin training himself in how to utilize his bloodline. I will master my bloodline, or else I won't be able to protect Suzuki and Makoto. Unknown. Almost that time for them to send their report. Damn it, I'm always impatient when it comes to this crap. Yes, sir, but we will just have to rely on our shinobi's ability. You hand-picked them after all. Still though, if they fail in this, our village will lose another chance at having one of the greatest Kekii Genkai. We have to be ready in case someone tries to attack. God knows I can't rely on any shinobi around here. All of them are so damn lazy. Sir, that's very untrue. We both know you love all your shinobi. They just don't perform to your high level of expectation. Well, they better start, or else they will never accomplish their mission in Konoha and die at the hands of those they are trying to get. We shall see, sir, we shall see. Konoha Team 7 Training Grounds. It was early morning when all 3 genin arrived, feeling well-rested and ready for their test. Against their sensei's orders, all 3 ate breakfast in preparation for the survival challenge. They doubted that whatever he had in store would make them lose their stomachs, especially considering how they were very suspicious of the so-called survival exercise. Chances were that they would be fighting Kakashi instead. The 3 remained quiet, sharing the occasional glance as they waited easily into late morning for their sensei to arrive. When he finally did, Sasuke was just about ready to punch him in the face when he showed up with his apologetic smile and wave. Sorry, a black cat crossed my path, so I had to take a detour. Naruto held her back and just whispered a reminder that they would get to hit him plenty soon. So sensei, what's this test? Kakashi looked at Naruto and saw the boy was ready to go, so there was no point in prolonging the event. He took out a small clock and placed it on one of a row of tree logs embedded into the ground. He hit the button on top to start the timer and turned to face the 3. It's set to go off at noon, at which time the test will end. He began to reach into his pocket as Sasuke crossed her arms and spoke in annoyance. So what's the test? She asked impatiently, to which Kakashi held up a hand for her to calm down as he took 2 bells out of his pocket. He pointed at them as he explained. These are your tests. You are to get one from me using whatever means necessary. Those 2 who get the bells pass and the one who doesn't fails. Simple enough, I think. Right? He looked amongst the 3 for any hint of dissension but found none. Good. Well, if you don't have anything to say, we can begin when I say, start. Kakashi hooked the 2 bells onto his pants and waited a few moments to gather the tension. The 3 genin shared a glance before looking back at the jounin who, after seeing what they did, gave a smile and nodded. Start.